Good evening, everyone, and everyone out there on Zoom. So today is December 5th. This is our town board meeting. If you will, please, exit to the front and exit to the back of the building. And if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Okay, we're going to start with the public hearing for the proposed override of state tax cap.
Everybody's let in.
Yeah.
All good?
Okay. So it's a public hearing for the proposed override of the state tax cap legislation, which by doing this gives us the sets up the groundwork for us to be able to override the state tax cap. So anyone have anything to say here? A motion to open the public hearing for the override of the state tax cap legislation.
Andrea Rendo, so moved.
Second.
Oh, motion, yeah, discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Can we just give a recap before where we're at, the current scorecard, percentage wise going in?
It's not, that's not this.
Okay. Oh, okay, all right,
tax
fine.
cap legislation.
Okay, yes.
And again, the idea is it doesn't commit you to, although everybody's seen the numbers that have been thrown around. So, you know.
And just to reiterate, the 2% tax cap is really 2.62 if you factor in the factorization parameters that were provided to us by the state controller's office. So it's 2.62. So anyone here want to speak?
Hello, Glenn DeFaber. I'm here not necessarily speaking about budget items, but maybe we wouldn't have to have the override if we would spend our money wisely and on things we really need. Such as the only department in Lewisboro that actually turns a profit is the building department. And it's nice that you have this thing here that shows our revenue started dropping precipitously when we failed to rehire the assistant building inspector, which also resulted in the building inspector leaving because he couldn't do it all, even with the assistant. So not only we have no building inspector to bring in revenue, we've been losing revenue since May. And without the building inspector, we have had no enforcement on the illegal garbage dumpster storage location on Route 35. So that's one thing. And then we have the salt dome fiasco. Now over.
Glenn, let me just interrupt. This is about the state tax
Yes.
cap override. So it's not about these other issues.
Well,
So
if
let's
you would,
stick-
ma-
let's
if you
stick
would,
to the public
if you
hearing,
would
please.
manage it
Let's stick to the
properly,
public hearing.
so I'll wait.
You
And
have
then-
your
so
perspective,
when do
that's
I
fine.
speak? After this?
Public comment.
That's
This is
next.
a public hearing for this
Okay,
particular.
fair
item.
enough.
Thank
Fair
you.
enough.
Thank you. Anybody else here?
Hi, Simone O'Connor, Vista. I don't know if I'm going to have the same problem. I'm going to
If it's
try.
not about the tax cap.
It is
you're
about
gonna
the,
have same
well, I'm
problem.
not here for anything else. I don't want us
About
to
this
go.
legislation,
Yeah,
about us pursuing the legislation.
I don't want us to breach the tax cap.
Fine, that's.
Let me start with that.
Maybe you
Okay.
should explain what the two public hearings are, so that.
Why do you
Well,
have,
this is the first public hearing, so it's
Okay.
on the agenda, so I'll explain the two public hearings. The first one is the proposed override of the state tax cap legislation, as I mentioned earlier. By passing that legislation, it allows us to exceed the tax cap. We do this every year. Number two is the public hearing on the preliminary budget.
okay,
So can I
And
add to that?
then we have public comment.
So the point, there's a timing issue here. If you don't pass this now and you get down to the wire and you're, finalizing your budget and you have to go over, nothing you can do about it for whatever reason. And you haven't passed this thing, you can't do it. You can't pass it, because you have to have a public hearing. So we pass it ahead of time, either do it or not do it.
okay, so my position is let's not do it. And that's
Let's not
what,
pass the legislation.
let's not pay, I don't want to breach the tax cap. I don't know if I have to say it in
Right.
another language or I'm not getting it across. I do not
But just to
believe,
be clear, for as long
Oh,
as I've been
Lord.
on this board,
Yeah.
every year we've done this. as a safety net, like Dan just said.
Okay,
So once again, it's two parts, just so that everybody in the room and everyone on Zoom understands, there's two parts. The first part is, in order, if there's any possibility that we're gonna, if we were to vote on the budget first, right? And we had to exceed the tax cap, we would have to go back, pass a local law, have a public hearing, in vote on there being a local law that allows us to reach the tax cap, then go back to the budget again. So since there's deadline before the end of December, what has been the practice of the town board to do is to pass the legislation first so that it's in place. If at the time we get to the budget, we have to break the tax cap, we don't have to go backwards, we're still within the time frame. But then if we don't have to break the tax cap, there's no need to move ahead or worry about the legislation goes away. We haven't broken the tax cap, it doesn't make a difference. But just in case we have to break the tax cap, that's what the legislation is for. It's put into place first because you need it for that to happen. So right now, the only public hearing that's going on is whether or not we should pass the legislation so that it's in place in case when we get to public hearing number 2 and we've heard all about the budget and the town board feels that after hearing all the public comment and after getting all the feedback from the departments that we have to break the tax cap, we don't have to go backwards. That's what it's for. So this first public hearing is just about the legislation. The second public hearing is right after, is everything about the budget that was published that you could all see and you reviewed. I'm sure you've all been going through the numbers.
in understanding that, and I thank all of you, I do not want to pass legislation to breach the tax cap, period, the end. I don't care if it's in place. I don't want it to be in place because I don't want you to do it. And I don't care if it was done last year, 10 years ago, 40 years ago. I don't want it done. And I've already seen the budget. I'm going to wait to speak on the second public hearing about my issues with that. So I know where you're headed because I've watched every meeting leading up to today. So I would like you not to vote for legislation to have a safety net to breach the New York State tax cap. Thank
Can I
you.
just ask a question, Simone?
You could ask, yeah.
What's your fear? Let's say we did exceed the tax cap by a little bit. What is your fear of that?
I don't want my taxes to go up.
Okay.
I don't
How much do you
know-
think it would go up?
Well, according to Dan, everything's $1.50, $20, $10, $5.
When you say.
So I didn't bring my calculator to add it all up, but I don't want,
So-
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me how much
Yeah.
you
So
want to
when we-
raise
when
our
we- So when
taxes.
we exceeded the cap last year, did your taxes go up significantly? That caused.
I'm here
Just out of
to,
curiosity.
I didn't know I was going to have.
We did.
Okay, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't like to speak out of turn
Okay.
and on things I'm not prepped to
I
speak
just
about.
wanted to understand the substance behind your concern. That's all. That's
I'll
all.
tell you
Yeah.
the substance. People are suffering, Tony, and
Yeah,
I'll wait
okay.
to say it the next time. People are suffering. You may not be. Maybe no one here is suffering. And I can't believe that I'm talking to a board of mostly Democrats and I'm asking you to help people
Right.
who are suffering to buy groceries,
Mhm.
gas, elderly people, young people. That's my fear. It's not necessarily
Thank you.
just
Thank
for
you.
me.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay,
Got it.
I'm done.
No,
I'll
no,
wait
say
for
you're
the
done.
next
Just say
story.
thank you for your, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else here want to speak?
Hi, Karen Conti, South Salem. Just very briefly, I'm in support of the town board voting procedurally to allow a tax cap or to break the tax cap this year. One, because it makes a lot of sense, and two, because as you just said, I didn't realize the exact number, but 2.6% is quite a bit lower than inflation, which ranges somewhere between 6 and 8 point something, depending on who you talk to. And even if we were going to do the exact same thing we did last year, we couldn't unless we break the tax cap because things cost more.
Anybody else here?
Hello, Spiro Limiatis from Golden Bridge. I too am against the cap tax breaking Same reasons, the cost of everything has gone up, the pool emission this year has gone up. Fuel's gone up for everybody, home heating oil's gone up, your electric bill's gone up. Everything. So I understand you guys are at the safety net, but to stay under that safety net is probably beneficial for everybody in this room. That's what I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand those guidelines. I'm for breaking the tax cap. Tax cap is an artificial number, really means nothing. It's supposed to keep you guys feet to the fire. I have your feet to the fire here, so I'm in favor of breaking the tax cap.
Anybody else? How about on Zoom?
We do. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I am against breaking the tax cap, especially, I'd like to know how we broke the tax cap. What was the percentage that we broke last year? And also, I'm not sure why we're not using the general fund that was, not the general fund, the federal money that was used from the federal government to support some of these issues. That's it. I'll speak again. Thank you.
I can answer that question about the federal money. It cannot be used to enhance your general fund.
But it was used to support and pay for the playgrounds?
That's correct. It could be used for any expense, facilities improvements, et cetera.
So why not use that
Expense.
money in other sections of the budget rather than for the highway?
It doesn't go into the budget. It does not factor into the budget at all.
So it's at the town board's discretion on how that money is spent?
It's the town board's discretion to discuss how we could potentially spend it in what capital expenses or facility upgrades, as well as what input.
Isn't upgrading the town roads a facility upgrade?
It is, yes,
Well, there you go.
but that does not go into the budget.
You were talking
The ARPA funds do not go into, not get factored into the budget.
at the last
Is that correct?
work session meeting, you were talking about raising the highway road repair by a certain amount of money, and that would
Right.
bring the tax cap up to, I think, just over 4%. So why not
Correct.
use that federal money in some way in the budget?
You cannot use it in the budget.
May I come, Tony?
What's that?
May I?
Sure.
Carol, it's not that we can't use the money to pave the roads, but the money goes like straight from ARPA to pave the roads. It can't go from ARPA into our budget then to cover a line in the budget for the roads. So if we decided that we don't want to put $150,000 line into our highway fund, like add a line in there in the budget, we get into 2023 and we decide that we want Mr. Rippinger to pave Main Street in South Salem, we can use ARPA funds to pave the road then. We just can't include it as part of our budget. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I think that's something that you all should consider is somehow using that money. I understand it can't be a budget item, but you can pass a resolution to use it in a manner that has to do with road repair.
That's correct.
And that'll be discussed. Yes, we're not there yet.
Okay, I just have to say that this has been very unclear of how this meeting was going to work, and it would have been nice to know all this beforehand. So thank you for doing this, and I appreciate your input.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Carol. Next, I'm asking Jonathan Monty to unmute.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Jonathan Monty, Golden's Bridge. I just want to ask the board, is it possible to bring DOT over to Golden's Bridge to look at pedestrian concerns? I know they'll be in town looking at.
So John, we're right now in the middle of the public hearing for the tax cap.
Oh, tax, my apologies.
Yeah. So that's okay. Come back in during public comment. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so I'll motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Someone want a motion? For the override?
Yeah, what's the name of this bill?
It's local law number 7.
Is that actually?
Pass local law, what's it so? As the allows for these.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is it a roll call?
Okay, roll call. Andrew,
No.
Dan,
Yeah.
I'm a yes.
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 Thank you. Now we go into the public hearing for the 2023 preliminary budget. Or I would like to motion that we open the public hearing for the preliminary budget, the 2023 preliminary budget.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody here want to say anything regarding the preliminary
Yeah,
budget?
can we just give a quick overview where we're at this point in time?
Oh, so I could, yeah, I guess I should, it's, the printouts are there, but I'll put it up on the screen just to show people where we are.
It will be helpful for those on Zoom too.
Yeah,
And it's the preliminary, not.
It's a preliminary,
not with
correct.
revenue.
So
yeah.
maybe we could just pick up. So last Monday, we adopted 5-0 a preliminary budget. And that's preliminary budget becomes the basis.
We said it's a hearing.
we set a public hearing on the preliminary budget.
But we adopted the preliminary budget as well.
Right.
Right. So just to give the highlights of the preliminary budget, which we adopted last Monday, and which is the subject of this public hearing now.
And we put the screen here so many folks you can see and just close out this.
So if you could just give the top sheet where we're at for everybody, so we can go
Yeah,
from
so
this point in
is,
time.
yeah, so this is the tax rate. So I know we had spoken about the 2.708. The actual field we should be looking at is the 2.982, the one that's highlighted. And basically that means we're over the tax cap by $26,531. So that is the exceedance on that 2.622.
And as you clarified for me, if you go across to the left, that's the town line. And you take that across over cap.
Yeah,
So
so
you
with
take the
this-
town line across and you're 26,531 above the cap as of right now with the preliminary budget.
Right, and if I go to the tax rate, oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see if I can see. Yeah, can we turn that screen maybe? We don't need to see it here, so maybe. The project, yeah. maybe. There goes Janet.
Okay. You want me to shift it a little more? Don't sneeze.
Okay, so let me just point out a few things. So with the way that this budget is here now. If I go to the tax rate tab. It means this is going to be the 25.69. That's how much you would be paying per thousand of assessed value. So it's $25.69 per thousand. As opposed to 2022, which was $25.02. So this
$25.02 per every thousand.
of assessed value
So it's approximately 67-cent increase per $1,000 of assessed value per homeowner.
Correct. So yeah, so that's the highlight of this budget, the preliminary budget as presented.
Liz, do we know what's the average or median assessed value in town ballpark?
be around 55,000.
Okay.
But, the assessment figures we give to the finance department, in the very beginning of the budget process is before we have any small claims, which are people that have filed grievances and have now given us support. So that number will change, so you might see the tax rate fluctuate by a few pennies from April.
Great.
That's to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Thanks for that info.
Okay, anybody have a question or like to say something?
Yes, why do you have to raise?
Can you come up to the podium, please? So people on Zoom can hear you because the mic needs to pick up your voice.
Why do we have to raise the taxes?
To cover the expenses that we have in the town's budget.
Every year, they keep going up, right?
Correct.
Will it ever end?
It's a big question, obviously, is a budget, but, hundreds and hundreds of items, and many of them completely out of our control, big one comes in last minute in the process. Insurance costs, which are coming down from the state, which is, what was the total there?
Yeah,
14% or something.
let me, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
It's pay the same things that, people have to pay in their own budgets, and they're going up by more than 2%. That's.
So if you look at this spreadsheet, I'll try to make the numbers larger. Basically what I did was I captured the tax rate from 2013 through to today. So you'll see the gradual increase, $17.82, 1829, 1878, 2011, 2118, 2169, 2310, 2394, 2439. So there has been a steady increase.
10-year period.
Right. And basically in this case here,
Put the average pay 50 on there.
no, that's a change from 23 to 22.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the number that we're looking at now. So, and here what I've done is, this is actually my scenario. So this is my property. My assessed value is $57,700. I have here the county tax rate, which I don't know what it's going to be for 23, but it's going to be lower. So I estimated it's going to be $29 versus this year's, which is $29.56. My fire district, Lewisboro Fire Department, is $14.38. I'm not sure what it is for 2023, but it's probably going to go up a little bit from there.
Well,
School district, $218 per thousand. So as our controller said 2 meetings ago, if you want to complain about your taxes, you want to go to your school district. So here, with this proposed budget, the preliminary budget, the impact to me is an additional $38 a year for this budget. To maintain all our town departments, to maintain our $1.5 million police budget, to maintain our highway budget, maintain all the departments that we have and that are required to function, the town function. So that's my share of this particular budget that we're reviewing, the preliminary. It's $38 extra that I'm going to be spending per year out of my total tax bill of almost 17,000. Well, so my total town tax is $1,482 proposed for 2023 compared to my total bill of 17,000 almost. So I don't know if that, and if I show you, here's my infamous pie chart. Oh, it's not on Zoom? Oh, sorry, hold on a second.
You have to share your screen.
I switch, it's still Excel, but I gotta share this particular, sorry, folks on Zoom, I'll go through that again.
You have to stop sharing and then start sharing again.
Yes,
Just while he's
Sorry.
changing screens, to let you know that the over the 10 years, it averages out to a 3% increase over that 10-year period. So it.
right, so again, just for the folks that missed it on Zoom, so the proposed this is just, this line is basically a history of our tax rate increases over the years. What we're proposing today is 25, or in the preliminary, $25.70. which equates as compared to 2022. In my case, it equates to a total tax bill, town tax bill of $1,482, which is a $38 increase over last year. Annually, that's $38 per year. Of my total $17,000 bill, town tax is $1,482. If I go to the pie chart, you can see the sliver that is the town. The blue is the town's tax. It's 8.7% in the second chart here. My town tax proposed for 2023 is 8.74% of my total tax bill. School tax is 76%, county tax is 9.8%. My fire district is 4.89. So the purpose of this is just to show you your town tax is a very small sliver to your overall tax bill. And when we talk about the tax cap, in this case, yes, we're breaking the tax cap on the preliminary by
2.98%.
2.98 versus 2. So we're breaking it by, in this case, by 0.36%.
Because the number that we're quote unquote allowed to go to for the increase is 2.62%.
Yeah, and it's not that you're allowed, it's. the
I know,
guidance
I
from
said
your
quote
state.
unquote.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's 2.62.
You know, I said this is one way or the other before, we know that, you know, say $38 is no joke. There's some folks in town for whom, you know, an additional 38 for the year is significant. They're struggling and, you know, it's not likely talked about, but on the other hand, you kind of can't design a whole budget around, you know, that. I mean, there are other progressive things in our tax code around income tax that are supposed to pick up on that. You know, the town is making good investments in things that benefit people who don't have a lot of other resources. The work that was done on the playgrounds, they are facilities that anyone can enjoy. And so I think in my mind,
The playground
yes.
that we can all go and enjoy. I just want to make sure I heard that. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. They're facilities that anyone can utilize. The point being that that's a public shared facility, you know. So that's embedded in some of these. And the rest of it is like we have, and we've said this before, we have about, you know, we have a very modestly paid workforce. We have the lowest library subsidy in the entire county. We have the lowest Parks and Rec net subsidy in the county. You know, this government runs on a very, very thin margin in so many ways. And so, you know, doing the best we can with the same type of pressures on the budgets that, again, everybody over households have to face.
Well, we do have some employees in town because of I think the last year of the New York State minimum wage phase in. So there's people, I think, with library are impacted in Parks and Rec. So there's some employees in town where it's an automatic.
We've traditionally been below minimum wage. And so we're bringing that number up with Parks and Rec. It's the only way you're gonna be able to hire people, especially with summer help. So that's been factored in here.
What about the confidential secretary? She seems to be getting more than everyone else.
The confidential secretary, that's the supervisor's office. There's a lot that goes on with the 6 people that are in.
Well,
this
we
building,
going
but
to,
that's a
we
different
going to
discussion.
comment now, or we?
Yeah, we're not, that's public comment, okay?
Well, we're hearing the budget.
Yeah, and I just want to, you know, just to let folks know, without understanding what people do here in this building, it's very unfair to comment on the amount of work.
You were just you were giving the overview for the public hearing leading into that on the budget, right? And now we're going to open it.
Yeah.
Unless once you're set, we can then open it up for comments.
This
Yeah.
is,
That's
that
correct.
we have
This is the
open.
public- We opened it
Yeah, Tony was giving an overview, right? You're all,
because I was responding to this first person that had a question about the budget and where the money's going, so that's why I brought.
we'll just, you all set with your overview? You have some more?
No, it's.
Okay, so I guess we're open.
I'll keep it up in case anybody.
Okay,
has any-
so I guess we're ready for public comments.
In the public hearing.
The hearing.
Public,
Separate.
Yeah.
public comments referable to the public hearing on the budget.
Public comment is for any topic.
Yes, that's next.
That's, yeah.
Roman numeral 2 on your
Public
agendas at
hearing
home.
is for this budget.
Okay.
Correct.
Nice.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, please use the mic so the people on Zoom
Okay.
can hear you
I know,
well.
it's the audio is very bad on Zoom.
Um,
Looking at this, there's two things. First of all, there's no money in this budget for road repair. Correct?
No, there is.
There is chips?
Road repair?
No, I'm talking about town monies for repaving, resealing,
There is.
the Cornell, I thought there was nothing. Was it added back?
It was always there. That's part of highways.
No. Above and beyond repair for upgrading our roads. And according to Dan, we're not on the Cornell plan
They're not
anymore.
done, But there's a very low budget.
Not even enough, is it enough to keep up with the deterioration? Okay, that's. Because I think you said in a previous meeting that we're not even keeping up with the Cornell plan.
Oh, no, we fell off the.
We fell off yeah. Okay,
I mean, I just did, you probably heard me, just sort of back and.
Yeah.
You got a certain lifetime for a road, a certain number of roads.
no, one of the few things we agree on was spending money on roads.
So let me just to answer your question, Glenn. So here we have two lines. Actually, three lines. Road repair and maintenance, right? We're at $80,000 in the preliminary.
So that means things like potholes, right?
That's.
Yeah. Road resurfacing and paving, 180,000. And then we have the chips resurfacing and paving, that's 107,000, that's the money that goes to the state.
Okay, but our money for rehabilitating and repaving is 180,000. And what is the amount of mileage that $180,000, does it cover a mile in repaving? Does it cover a half a mile? So how many towns?
Total with the chips.
Well, I don't like to throw the chips in because that should be,
Let's go back to the basic math. 9 miles of road. Good correction, this is the lifetime of road, somewhere between 12 and 14 years, that would be 15, right? 12 and 14, so if you use like an average of 13, divide that into 90 miles, you get about 7, which means you should be paving 7 miles of road a year. 1 mile of road that cost to pave it, you told us last time, average about 140,000, right?
so we're paving 2 miles? Subdivision I live in Cross River, hasn't been paved in 30 years, but it's been patched. I have patches on patches on patches on patches. It looks beautiful. I think it's really good for bringing people into town and seeing our roads. Okay. One other thing on this, and then there's a line for $15,000 in overtime of court clerks. This is something new because, well, there was no overtime prior to, I think, 2019. They worked on comp time. You have 2 court clerks, and what they used to do is take off the day, the week that they're going to work at night. It's only 3 hours. I'm pretty cognizant what goes on the court clerk. As my daughter was a court clerk here for 8 years. And I don't know if I should take responsibility for this because I raised her and she trained the present court clerk. Well, that present clerk was out for 3 months taking care of her sick father. And she worked alone. And she was young and stupid then. And she would come home and complain the job was done at 9:30 in the morning. alone. No overtime, twiddling her thumb. So she used to help the building department stay busy. And within a few years of her gone, we have overtime. And I'm just wondering, when the court was closed in 2020, was any overtime paid? Because the only thing I could find, the budget line never changed. So if we took that 15,000 and we applied it to this, that would bring our budget up by what? 1%, not even 1% over the tax cap, and we'd hurt nobody. We'd save the people some money. And the 4,000 for your
Time's
secretary.
up, Glenn. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is what I took notes. Simone again,
Bring the
Vista.
mic too closer to you. Okay.
Hello. The New York State Comptroller's Office has stated the inflation rate 7.17. With the exception of the most necessary departments such as our police department, et cetera, no one else should receive monies over that amount. We just don't have it. No discretionary spending. It's not easy, but I believe it can be done. At a time when gas and food prices are out of control, NYSEG bills are through the roof and more. It's just fiscally irresponsible to break the New York State tax cap. And I don't care how it's explained by pennies or whatever it is. Does this mean I believe in no raises? Absolutely not. I personally greatly appreciate the work that's done to make our town run. But for example, and I stated it before, and I know, Tony, you get very defensive, and I don't know why you're so defensive. Let me finish. Well, I understand, but you're particularly defensive over this one employee. I have a problem with the confidential secretary receiving the raise that other people are getting and $4,000 on top of it when you're telling me, oh, it's just peanuts, and Dan's explaining it like we're really bare bone minimum. That doesn't go hand in hand. This particular secretary was also getting land for some nominal fee, but I'm not going to go backwards. I'll go forward. I believe there's ways to lower the cost, and that's one of the ways. I found you $4,000, right like that. You have a grant writing committee. Let them write the grant.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was told you do.
We have a grant advisory committee.
Okay, Tony.
Just
I want my minutes back from that. Next, the question arises, the town roads, which we just discussed, and perhaps, which we discussed before, we can use some of the money that we got from the feds, which, by the way, is our money. It's our tax money. It's not coming from somebody's wallet. It's our wallet. I live in the Meadow Pond School District, where although we lose every single time a bond is put up asking for more money, we vote it down. And I don't want to break the tax cap. I, of course, want town and state roads not to kill my tires and my car. But, you know, where is the money that we got, the $2 million? What's going on with that? I know 350.
$1 million?
Well, 1 point, whatever it is, 1 point.
1.2.
Yeah, 1.2. Okay, that's quite funny, but you already spent 350,000 of
We
that.
didn't spend it yet, but.
Well, you are going to spend it because that's what you do, spend. Okay. Could we use some of that money perhaps to give us relief? Because that's what it was given for. It was given to make us whole after COVID. I'm not whole. I haven't felt any kind of wholeness.
To give the residents relief, you're saying.
To give our town relief. If
Okay.
we're going to do this
Yeah.
and that thing rings, I'm going to continue
Okay, fine. Go
talking
ahead.
because I will do this
Yeah,
all
yeah.
night long with
Okay.
you. Okay. People are suffering right here in this town, and you're left with the task of setting a budget. A task, by the way, that you all wanted. I didn't want it. I didn't run. You ran. You said you could do it. Do it. My opinion is to go back, figure out a better way. Figure it out. There's line issues, I believe, that can be reevaluated. I had my brother look at it. He's a tax attorney. He picked out line issues that you could go back and look at. Don't tell me it can't be done. I believe you need to be fiscally responsible to the people in this town. Is it hard? I didn't say it wasn't hard, but you said you could do it, so do it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Anybody else here? Like to speak? Hold up. Yeah, sorry, Peter, person in the back first. Sorry, you're next.
My name is Lisa Roberts and I'm the assessor for the town. As the most senior employee for this town, having just started my 38th year with the town, and after watching some of the last board meetings, I feel like I would like to talk on behalf of the employees. The town of Lewisboro has a fabulous group of employees. We're a great team. We have a great work family. We consider our board and supervisors part of our work family also. Nobody wants to pay more taxes, but we've also worked very hard for this town and we believe we are due to be treated fairly. When the pandemic hit, the employees stood up to the task, working with the residents to help navigate through those tough times. We came into the office, we worked from home, we worked late nights working with our residents, helping them obtain building permits, dealing with traffic tickets, socially distancing outside to do exemption forms. Some of them even had to learn speaking a little Spanish to help out in the court system. And we all did it just to help. And nobody complained. All the other towns around us received raises in 2021, and none of us did. After listening to the town board meetings, though, in the past few weeks, I feel like it's been getting personal with certain employees. And you may not really understand the duties of their job. We respect your diligence and your hard work and your late nights with the budget, but we're only asking for a 4% raise. Please know all your employees always have your back, speak very well of you in public, and I want to thank you for your time and understanding.
Thank you for your service to the community.
Anybody else? Peter. Go ahead.
Good evening, board. Peter Cipriano from Vista. I'm just gonna make this real brief. You guys are doing a great job. I know it's not easy. There's one thing that just bugs me a little bit. Parks and Rec as a committee decided that the playground was to be fully funded, and we knew about the issues of the drainage. So to fund it with government money is not right. They were doing a great job fundraising, and it should have continued, and they should have put out that little barometer like the library did, and it should have been funded without our taxpayers' money. I know it's not Lewisboro's taxpayers, it's the government with the federal government's money, but that money could have went to something else, like road improvements, taking over 123 from Elwood Road to the Port of New Canaan. And the other thing was, have we actually looked at the budget to see if an in-house town engineer, do we need the state to come in to look to see if it makes more sense fiscally to have our own engineer and not have to pay the consultant engineers, especially when it comes to building walls in town, wetland inspections? And if somebody is a good employee, they might be able to take care of this for the town, and there'll be extra money to spend towards facility improvements. That's my opinion. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm not sure if anybody looked. I've been asking for it for 3 years. I don't think it's been done. And maybe it can't be done. Maybe we need a state controller to come in and look at it and audit the books and see what's going on. And the last thing is simple projects. Can we get like other towns and have permits online? Like if somebody wants to do insulation or something, replace something, just simple, get online, pay it and be done. Issue the permit for simple projects so people actually go for the permits instead of saying, I'm not waiting a year to get heat or something like that. That's all.
Thanks, Peter. We do have an online permitting system, an application. You submit your applications.
No, it's something like other towns where you actually pay for it, submit it, and it's approved online.
Let's discuss that. I love that idea. Sure.
Actually, my wife knows more about it.
Okay, good. We can talk.
Maybe
Go ahead.
maybe on sort of maybe our controller 2023, because I know Peter brought this out, we'll do some kind of internal audit to just understand the total costs that we have by way of outside engineers, and to just evaluate that versus the possibility of the town engineer, just so we can do a cost benefit analysis, just take a look at it in 2023. I think it's a good exercise.
Anybody else?
Sorry, another Cipriano, Jennifer Cipriano from Vista. I just want to follow up with what Peter was saying. You know, I think there's a lot of scrutiny in this because people are feeling the pinch, and it's not just with inflation either. It's with everything they try to do with their property in this town. And when they're looking at trying to make their home a better place, whether it's more efficient with new windows or their heating system is crap and they need to fix it, the soft costs, they forego it because the soft costs are outweighing what they can afford, even in the project itself. And look at how much projects cost now. So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of people scrutinize you over this because they're really feeling it. And like Peter was saying, if there's a simpler way of going and getting permits, I understand like someone blowing up their house that needs to be looked at, but you know, replacing windows and simple things that make a house better, I think could be facilitated with just a simple online with like in other towns do it. New Canaan does it. You go online, you pay the fee, and you're approved within a week for new windows or insulation or something. So it's just an idea.
One of the things I think was last year, one of the things we did administratively is we did change.
We did simplify some of the, the things to avoid going to the wetlands, the environmental questionnaire, the EQ process.
Right.
So things like to put a generator on a certain.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something to look at in the new year. If there's things that will add in the administrative aspect.
And I think because we hear it a lot, we hear a lot of report back because we are one-on-one with customers all the time. And they say, you know what, I'm selling my house. I can't do anything with it. I can't afford it. The taxes are so high. And now on top of wanting to improve my home, it's going to cost me $15,000, $20,000 in soft costs. Like it just, you know, I think.
The idea of streamlining the process.
Well, I know a young family, for instance, that are, you know, waiting for their permits right now. And I know this is a little off topic, but you know, they're a young family that moved here. They have to gut their house. It's poor conditions, and they're not expanding the imprint. They're just improving the house. They're having a baby in January. They have to rent a house to live in, and they're still waiting for their permit. And they submitted in July.
Or Jen, you can let me know.
Yeah.
And we
Okay,
can
okay, but
see what we
and they're
can
not
do.
the only ones.
I know.
So it just, okay, thank you.
You're welcome, John. Anyone else here? No? On Zoom? Oh, wait, there's one more.
Hi, Karen Conti, South Salem. I haven't studied every single line item, but I did take a look and, you know, I see that salaries are going up and costs of things are going up. We're not paying more for electricity next year. I was like, okay. But we've lived here 30 years. We've had a chance to work with nearly every department over the years, many of whom, you know, some of the people have been here almost the whole time. And the town does a great job, given the tools that it has. You know, we're a very small town. We don't have resources like even our neighbor in Bedford, you know, where I was talking to the supervisor and they have a $44 million budget. So, you know, in here, there's a line item for $2,500 for webmaster. I don't know what you could do for $2,500, but it can't be much. So I know that you've worked really hard to figure out how to keep our town going. It seems like you're doing a lot of the same thing that we've been doing all along, and there's a lot of room for improvement, but all improvement costs money. And I don't want to pay more taxes, but I want to have the services that I have. And I don't want to see, throwing the baby away with the bathwater. I don't want to see a decision being made to save a little bit of money this year, but then we're not investing in our town and our community in the future. So I elected you all to make these really tough decisions. And I think that you've worked pretty hard to figure out the best way to move forward, and I'm going to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here? Zoom?
Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
How's that?
Fine.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Thank everybody for working so hard. I do have a couple of issues with the budget. First of all, as far as the process goes, I would like it to be a little more accurate next year for someone who watches these meetings all the time and who looks at the numbers. You know, what I can only go by is what I see. And if the numbers are not accurate, for example, in the 2022 column, then this opens up a whole can of worms, because then we're looking at something and we're not looking at an accurate number. So we're thinking that perhaps increases are more than what they were last year. And Tony, you did mention that some of them were not up to date due to union negotiations. So I'm just asking that next time we put information out, when we go through these budget processes again, is to have the accurate 2022 figures there so people could see what's going on. The second thing is kind of in agreement with something Peter Cipriano brought up, which is the decision to go with an outside consultant firm for the assistant building position. I'm hoping that it works out. I'm a little concerned about that because a lot of times consultant fees are not always what they told us they would be. I'm not privy to the contract, obviously, that the town signed with this group. So I don't know if there's a cap on what they could charge us. If you put a cap on what they could charge us so that we stick to that $92,000 and that we're indeed not losing money. For example, you said if we had an assistant superintendent, we'd have to obviously pay benefits. So there's a $30,000 cost savings. So you really have to watch that this group does not start adding into extras, or, you know, all of a sudden they're tacking on extra fees. So that whole philosophy of saving money by not having someone in-house, which has its own benefits, then is for nothing. The other thing I'd like to bring up is I would like to see, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, obviously, because you are trying to stay under or close to the tax cap. I would have liked to have seen that part-time officer for traffic have been kept and not just have a quarter of what Chief Alfano asked us for. I think it's going to be very hard to determine if there is a cost benefit to that position on just a quarterly, kind of just looking at over 1 quarter. I think we need more than a quarter of a year's time to see if that kind of position is going to bring in the money that it could possibly bring in. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice night.
If I could, I just want to address some of the points, Barbara. So thank you for your email. Hopefully I answered all your questions to your satisfaction. You're correct. So the 2022 actuals in this file were based on the fact that there were still union negotiations, and we held off on updating last year any of the salaries. So the raises are based on the actual salary that were or are in our system for 2022. But this is going to happen again with the unions because we have not finalized all the union agreements yet. So in next year's spreadsheet, you're going to see an incorrect adopted budget 2023 first column for the unions. But again, that's because we don't have the actual numbers
We'll
at
need
this
to
point in time.
find a space to add another column and say, you know.
Yeah, it's for
adjusted,
the actual
whatever,
adjusted
just,
or actual, the actuals, actually. Yeah, so but we'll look to improve on that, Barbara. Thank you very much. So that's the, and you're right about the building department. We have this firm. You're doing a fantastic job knocking out plan reviews, inspections. They've been doing daily inspections, multiple inspections per day. We do have to monitor that expense. It is a share of the construction costs that's submitted with the application, but we will keep a close eye on that. But the good news is that they are chipping away at our backlog, and they're doing a very good job at it.
So we are still looking for
For a building inspector, not the assistant. Right.
And there's more than one. We have the one.
We have two plan-
Bella, and then we have two.
We have two other plan reviewers, which as a matter of fact, you have to see down county. I was driving down county. I took a box of plans, dropped them off with him on Saturday and picked up a box of plans that he had reviewed and delivered them this morning to building department. So yeah, so we'll see how that works out. We'll keep an eye on it and we'll figure out next steps. Okay, anyone else?
And one more comment on the part-time officer, that quarter that Chief Alfano asked for, it's a test run. And if it is proven to be an increase in the safety of our community, we will find the funds to continue funding the part-time office. That's why we agreed on the test run.
Right,
Because
and the chief
if
agreed.
it's going to be successful, we'll continue it.
Started in the spring, so.
That's correct.
Target.
After the snow melts.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes. Carol Sternak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York, and I'm at Farview Farm. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just want to mention that it's not clear whether at the end of the last work session, you were talking about adding a money to the road repair, and that would bring the budget back up to more than just over 4%. So I'm not clear where that stands. And if that stands, I think by raising the tax cap, you're driving your senior citizens and your lifelong residents, your single people and your single parents out of this town. It's going to change the vibe of this town. Secondly, I would like to know how many grants on average does the town apply for yearly? And how many of those grants are received based on the suggested $4,000 increase on the stipend for the personal secretary? I would also like to know how many people on the town board receive on the town board payroll receive stipends, as that's not reflected in the budget. How much money has the town generated from the tree ordinance? Because that's another job that you're dumping on the building inspector's office without an increase in salary. How many town board members waived the salary increase? I'm not done. Can we stop being reactive and proactive? Let's invest in the infrastructure and not so much in stipends and all that other BS that's going on. I'm not sure why there's no code enforcer for the town. There's no building inspector and there's no assistant building inspector. And I can't believe that you think giving 50% of our building inspection, our building permit fees is a viable answer to the problem of negotiating a contract. It would be great to know, moving forward, it'd be nice to know what the overview of the preliminary budget changes from every meeting to meeting. It's put out there, assuming that you're following, and I can't follow it because I'm on the meetings every week or every time there's a meeting, and I have trouble following it. So it'd be nice to have an overview when you present the new budget. And also, I would like to suggest that you use some of the federal money for your audio system for the Zoom meetings, because it really is bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anybody else? No, okay.
Here, our mic keeps popping off.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, this mic keeps turning off.
The other ones.
Is it the battery or?
Two.
I'll just use my library voice.
Okay, so,
Tony,
yeah.
could I address One, two, Carol.
Sure, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hopefully they can hear me on Zoom. As far as the building department goes, I think that the community needs to know that we as a town board are actively pursuing the hiring of a full-time building inspector. When Jeff resigned, the town board immediately took action to get someone hired. We set up a plan before he resigned. We had a plan. And we were working towards having someone in that role before the end of the year. Unfortunately, we were advised by Westchester County Civil Service that we could not go the route that they initially implied that we could go that would allow us to hire a building inspector in a more expeditious fashion. Instead, the town board was forced to start from scratch and proceed with civil service requirements, requesting a list, canvassing the list, bringing in prospective individuals to interview. And all this spreads now over weeks, where we thought we could maybe have an answer within days. We are now forced spread out over weeks. So then what do? So Tony scrambled and consulted and spoke to individuals, and we came up with a temporary plan to hire a few contractors and consultants to try to handle the caseload in the interim, so we could try to keep the building department moving until we hire a building inspector. And then once we hire a building inspector, we'll move to hire an assistant building inspector, because of course you need a building inspector to have an assistant there too, and to move accordingly. So this is a temporary answer to a more long-term problem. But the goal was to try to limit the harm to the residents, or I don't want to say harm, but to limit the lag to the residents and their permits until we are able to fill that position permanently. It is not perfect. We all know that it's not perfect. We're not 100% thrilled with it, but it's the best we can do under the circumstances until we have that full-time building inspector. Mary, you wanted to add something?
I did. Every time we go out, I hear something from someone about the building department, and I understand how important it is to get it fixed. It bothers all of us that there is a backlog. That it shouldn't be that way. We're here to serve the town of Lewisboro, not just as town board members, but as fellow employees. And we want to make sure that the building department gets the job done. No one should have to wait a long time so they can make their home their home.
And as part of the short-term strategy that we're trying to implement, we have outside contractors, et cetera, that are on the job now. In holiday time, when applications, et cetera, would not be as frequent as other times of the year, so we can use the opportunity during the holidays to try and reduce the backlog when stuff coming in the door is less. So we're trying to attack it from all angles, and we're proceeding forward as we need to, and as Andrea said and Mary said, to follow the civil service project process that we're bound to follow. To try and get things going full blast, because it's also one of the comments was it's an opportunity to bring in revenue for the community, and also to make sure we're fully staffed, as well as having the enforcement arm as well. So we're moving forward on that, and with all deliberative speed, and we're going to get there as soon as we possibly can. It's on our focus. It's our agenda to move forward. We're discussing it over a series of meetings, and we're going to continue to do everything we can to get that in place.
To
Right.
answer, oh, sorry, Tony.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, so the backlog started with COVID, right? That's when a lot of people started doing a lot of work at home. And even with 2 building inspectors, that backlog was, the number of applications were increasing. So it was, even with 2 of them, it was sort of tough to manage. We did get to a point, according to, this was after Joe left, where things kind of settled down and we thought things were gonna be manageable, but then backlogs started being created again. And so we're at the point now where, with the folks that we have on staff, we think we have a good handle on getting that backlog reduced. So we're gonna closely monitor that.
I can speak for myself. I'm not thrilled with the way the state of the building department is. I don't think anybody on this board is thrilled with the state of where our building department is, but we're trying to do the best we can to make it move. And this is only temporary. And hopefully soon we're going to have a new building inspector and we can move ahead. So again, this is only a temporary solution. This is not a perfect situation, and we don't intend to allow it to continue longer than it needs to. Just that it continues to move in some fashion so that the repercussions are not felt as severely as they could have been. As far as the waiving of the raise, the town board members have agreed not to take a raise for next year. Mary and I are lucky enough to be in the position where we do not need to tap into the town's benefits. So to that end, to answer your question, Carol, that's where we are with that. Mary, you had something else?
Yeah, well, with the hiring of the building inspector, we'll also have enforcement as well. That's one of the things Carol was asking for. And also that Andrea and I are also going to decline the $4,000. What's it called? The buyout in declining the health insurance. So we will put that back into the general fund.
Anybody else? That's it. Okay. All right, so that's a preliminary budget. Now, since this preliminary budget was published, we went and after more discussions, and I'll open up that other file.
Do you want to stop sharing while you're getting the other
So that
file?
was a hearing on the preliminary.
We have to close the hearing.
Oh, yeah, we got to close the public hearing. That's right.
I move that we close the public hearing on the 2023 preliminary budget.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we're going to go into discussion concerning the additional edits that were made. Let me just open my.
Not edits,
Well,
post
adjustments,
post
preliminary.
post adoption of the preliminary budget modification.
That you have developed, you're sharing with us now.
Correct. So let me.
Just so people understand, the public hearing was on the preliminary budget that was adopted last meeting. It's not something that could be altered before we vote to close the public hearing. It's just on what was presented and what was published and adopted last week. Is that right, Tony?
That's correct.
And
So,
if we
and
didn't-
we have, in terms of the timeline, so the hearing on the preliminary budget is the only public hearing that's required. And now we have until December 20th to file an adopted budget. And the plan is to adopt one tonight.
And if we didn't, the adopted preliminary budget would be our essentially default and our austerity that would be in place.
That's
So
correct.
That's
right?
one of the reasons why I agreed to vote for the preliminary budget last week, is because the budget that came before the preliminary budget put us over the tax cap by well over $300,000. When we got to last week, we cut it back down so that it was way under 100,000. It was under
Preliminary?
the preliminary budget was under 30,000 over.
It was $26,531 over the tax cut.
Correct. So at that point, I was a little more comfortable knowing that if for whatever reason this board was unable to reach an agreement on what the final budget would be, that the preliminary budget that we voted on as the default was much closer to the tax cap than what it had been.
So at the beginning, so the beginning of the process, like you said, we were in excess of 300,000 above the cap, and now we're at 26,531 with enacting the preliminary.
And I just wanted the people also to understand that we closed the public hearing. I didn't want people to be upset that, now we're talking about different tweaks to the budget and we didn't have an opportunity during the hearing to talk about those. The hearing was just about what was decided up to this point. Now we're going to talk about how else we can tweak it.
Right.
And then there'll be a public comments period.
This public comment for, yeah.
In general.
In general.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'll do is, let me just share this, this file here. This is the. Okay, so the file that you have in front of you and on Zoom, hopefully, should be on Zoom. I'm going to start with the highway fund. So what we did after reviewing with our superintendent, the CHIPS, which is the state provided aid for paving. We've averaged over the past 3 years, $250,000 plus in CHIPS revenue.
Which is the average money we receive from the state each year for that purpose.
So what we, and in this budget, there was a line item for that. It's the CHIPS. Hold on a second. It's the revenue, sorry. It's on the revenue side. Highway revenue, too many tabs. We had 170,000. That's on this line here. That's what's in the preliminary budget. So, right. So this is preliminary budget. Let me zoom in. So it's a little bit easier to see.
Did you get this email today or just?
Where was it last night?
There's a copy, there's a hard copy. You should have a hard copy. I'm not sure if I emailed it because. Yeah. I'm just Did I take my action? So anyway, so what I did was, after discussion with our highway superintendent, we decided to bring that up to $250,000. The expectation is that the state will continue providing us. Their fiscal year is not a calendar year. So from, mid-year 2022 to mid-year 2023, we received 282,000.
So that was in the prior 12-month period?
That's in the 2022 to 2023
200.
state fiscal year. It was like the first quarter.
Which is April 1, it starts.
Which is, I think it's April 1st, correct, yeah. So in that discussion, we decided, okay, so let's make the assumption that the state's going to continue this. I mean, they've continued it prior to 2018, I think it was, Peter. It was less. It was like 180 or around there. So since they've been providing us with 250 plus, and the last one was 282, we decided to put in 250 for the adopted budget, potential adopted budget here. That's an adjustment of $80,000 in revenue, increased revenue to highway.
It's still 32,000 below what we received last year.
Correct. Now that money comes in, it's going to be applied towards paving. So what we did then is on the paving line, the CHIPS paving line, we increased it by $80,000. So that provides an additional $80,000 for this line here, which is the CHIPS resurfacing and paving. So it's essentially, it nets out to zero, right? It's 80,000 coming in, 80,000 going out.
So we're projecting increased revenue as we did from last year, and we're going to take that increased projection on the revenue and spend it, so it's a wash on the roads.
Right.
Well, it's balanced, but the money is going into the roads.
Correct. It's going to, yeah.
It's a budgetary wash is my point.
It's a budgetary wash, right? So that's the one change. We did have information on our medical benefits insurance, which did increase individual coverage by 11%, family coverage by 14%, and
premium.
Now, so everyone is aware, we not only cover employees that are on this plan, but also retirees and their family. So anyone who's retired from town that worked the minimum, I think it's 10-year, they get full medical, right? So taxpayers are paying for that. And so that went up as well. We had a contingency line built in, and after our controller looked at that increase and looked at compared it to his contingency line, he felt it was safe to leave the contingency line alone and not increase it.
Which I think was what, 115 on the general and 60 on the highway or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we made no changes there. We did have and just go through back to the general fund tab. So just going through some changes here. Let's skip that one for now. The controller. So we have our current controller is retiring. And so we had to search for a new controller. We believe we found one. And this increase here, the 3252, is the increase that was required to bring that person up to the salary level they required, which is 115,000 for 2023. We did draw down the account clerk line because we had our controller had put in an extra $30,000 for a part-time account clerk to assist him. That's still a potential that we'll do that, but we don't want to do that until the new controller is hired. And since it's not going to be a full year part-time account clerk position, because we want to give the new controller time to start and then figure out whether we even need this role. We decided to drop $5,000 off of, make an adjustment of $5,000 off of that number, off of the 30,000 increase.
So the current $39,000 line is made up of two,
and it's made up of
part-time, 14,000 from Cheryl, I believe, and 25.
14,000 for the existing account clerk that is shared between two departments. So from the finance perspective, that 14,000 line item is finance's portion towards the account clerk's role, the existing account clerk. And then with the controller leaving, we also removed the longevity payment, which is this $2,000. So that was the other adjustment we made in this file. And again, these are adjustments made since the preliminary, which we just spoke about. The other changes, let me just scroll down here, just to make sure I don't miss any. There was a correction in our deputy town clerk's salary because of the information that was extracted from our ADP payroll system. It was not accurate because of just because of the way the stipend model in that role works. So we made that correction here. That's this additional $1,040, which reflects that correction plus the 4% increase.
So it's just conforming to what the ADP payroll information confirmed it should be.
Well, the payroll information did not include the other stipend adjustments, so that's why we made that adjustment here now, and it'll be reflected in ADP for 2023. So that was that one. Just scrolling down, see what else we have. Let's see. Okay, this was with Jeff leaving in the building department, we no longer have a longevity payment, which he was getting. So that was removed. And just so people are aware, longevity payments are paid to employees who have worked at least 5 years. It was a special agreement made with Jeff when he was hired, and he was getting that sooner than that.
Is that service 5 years threshold part-time and full-time both? Or?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I believe it is. I believe it includes both part-time and full-time only. It was the answer.
Thank you.
That's the person with experience.
Employees only get paid longevity when they've been here 5 years or more.
Full-time.
Full-time.
Full-time. And it's $1,500 per year.
Right. And yes, and then if they're here more than 10 years, it changes. It's another scale. And then I think it's 15 or 20 years, and yeah. The next adjustment, very minor. Sorry, Peter Rippinger, I had to take $5 away from your salary. That was just to balance it out with the 4% raise to everybody. I'll blame it on the computer. So, and then here we added a $1,500 longevity payment to our current recreation supervisor that was left out erroneously. from the requested budget line. And of course, it didn't carry over to the preliminary, so we did put that back in.
And that's for,
Our recreation supervisor.
okay.
Mention
Okay.
that is.
No, you don't need to. Let's see. And I think that was it, with the exception of, okay. Yeah, so that was the major changes. Now, let me go back up to,
Well, the changes, I mean, one was $5.
The
So
adjustments.
I wouldn't call it a major change.
well,
but-
I just want to be transparent. Those are all the changes that were made in this adjustment column. Now we have the other change was we had with the extra hours for the justice court. We got a $15,000 line item. We decided with the preliminary budget, we decided to lower that to 10. I put back in after discussions and conversations and letters, and I brought that back.
And memos.
Letters, memos, emails. I bumped that back to its original request of 15,000, and that's the point that was being discussed earlier about the. Someone mentioned about the hours. They do. These are extra hours for when they work above and beyond the normal schedules. When court opens up, like they had to open up court the other night.
Well, it's for court hours is what it is. It's not, that's part of the court processing.
Correct.
So,
Right, but it's extra hours outside of the work day.
well, the court
has-
is night court is what it is. It's part of what the court does.
Correct.
Um,
The point I'm making is that this is in addition to the 8-hour day they put in.
yeah, and, okay, so, did you finish on that?
Now let me, so let me just, so everyone's aware, with these changes, if you go back to the tax rate table, it brings our tax from 2.982 to 3.693. And the over under, it's actually over, it's 78,994 versus 26,531. Now, just to give a, people may be asking, okay, what is the impact on the taxes, on the true tax scenario? So let me go back to my pie chart. Hold on a second.
So
3.693.
with that 78,994, what is the tax percentage now?
3.698, 3.693, sorry. So if I go to the tax pie sheet, so if you remember, again, this is my example. So right now with the preliminary budget, in my case, with my house having an assessed value of $57,700, I'm going to pay an extra $38.61 to support the budget and all of the town's operations. If I plug in the new number here, which was 25.69, let me just verify something here, so make sure it's accurate. 25.699. Actually 25.877. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one. So if I take this 25 point, that's the incremental increase is about 22 cents, right? Per thousand of assessed value. So if I plug that number here, 2023, 25.877. So my taxes goes up by about $10 for the year.
Versus the other.
Versus the preliminary budget, right? So that's to show you that these latest changes that we worked on over the past couple of days, between yesterday and today, and with the new information we have, we were hoping to get some updated information from the county on sales tax revenue to see if that could potentially, because obviously they're working their budget. They're running their own analysis on what mortgage tax is going to be, what sales tax is going to be. But we decided after, and thank you, Elise, for pursuing this with the county tax folks. We decided to leave that number alone. But the idea was, could we bump up that sales tax revenue to help shave off some of the $78,000 overage that we have. So again, this is a reflection pie chart wise. So my taxes, what did I say? Is went up by $10 to $48.88. So that brings my total town tax bill to $1,493, which is 8.79% of this tax pie.
That's not a reflection of what your total tax bill will go up. It's only the portion that we're responsible for.
The town.
The town.
Right. And again, the red is the county, the green is my fire district, which happens to be Golden's Bridge, and the purple is the school. So, so we can discuss now. If we want to go back to, I'll go back to the other. Okay. Well, let's leave it here. I mean, so the discussion now is on I know there's some ideas on how to best handle that, the court expense, but I'll let Rich speak.
Okay, so where we are now is the preliminary budget plus modifications just proposed by the supervisor. That puts it as 3.698 and
3.693.
Oh, so I couldn't read my handwriting. 3.693 and just short of 79,000 above the cap now. So
Let me see that number again, 78.
78,994. So just as an overview, as I said at the beginning of this process, I think we have to ensure that we do not go over the cap, period, full stop. As I asked the supervisor at the outset of the process about other municipalities, and the feedback that Tony got was that other municipalities were either at the cap or below the cap. So I see no reason, if other municipalities are able to exercise that amount of fiscal discipline, that we shouldn't do it as well. So
Comment real quickly. Their budgets could have been in a totally different place from ours relative to like their line items already having enough meat in them to absorb.
Could be.
Let me just share an explanation I received from one supervisor.
Well, I just like to, and everybody can comment it as much as they see fit. So that's just and framing it overall. And so as a policy kind of pronouncement.
But before you move on, I just want to address the point you made about the discussions I had with other supervisors. So in terms of, in one case, they did fill their, they were able to reach the cap by reaching into the general fund. The reason they reached into the general fund is because they know next year their expenses are going to be reduced.
Okay.
By that amount.
Okay, so fair enough. So with that being said, the first point I want to bring up is on the court clerks, the court overtime, actually court time for the $15,000 line. I've been trying to get to the heart of that. We voted 5-0 last Monday to reduce that by 5,000. I think that's fair. And in support of it being fair, I went back historically in 2017 forward. So in 2017 and 18 and 19, actual numbers went from 110,300 to 110,934 down to 97,749. For those 3 years, I'm looking at the prior budgetary documents, there was zero for the extra hours for court timeline. In 2020, went up to 106,180, and that was across from 20 to 2021 and 22. And there was an adopted line starting in 2020 for the 15,000. And that was carried across 21 and 22. And for 23's budget, it's up to, with the increase, which is fine, in the base salary, 114,972, because we're doing 4% across the board for employees. And we did get a memo, that's correct, on Friday. And the memo, which was prepared and forwarded by the, on behalf of the court, indicated that in point of fact, for 2021 and for 2022, the court hours and court expense was just over $10,000. So reducing it to $10,000 was right on the money. One hole in the information that hasn't been provided, because I looked it up and I got 2017 through 2019, and then filling in the blanks from the court 2021 and 2022. For 2020, the pandemic year, when I believe the court was closed for 3/4 of the year, physically closed, not to say that, because things were being done during the course of the day, but there was a $15,000 line for court time. And I don't know how much, I haven't been able to get that information despite trying to get it, how much of that $15,000 budgeted for 2020 was actually spent. I would think it should be very little based upon the fact that the court was physically closed for at least 3/4 of the year. So on balance, as all 5 of us did vote for last Monday, I think the modest reduction of 5,000 there should carry through on that point based upon all the information that we've gotten, including for 2021 and this year, the actual expenditures being around $10,000 for the court time. So it seems like the reduction of 5,000 suggested by Mary on that was right on the money. So that's the 5,000. I think that to plug the gap, I think we should take money from the reserve in order to do that. I think based upon our healthy fund balance, we could do that. And part of the question that came up, well, we'd have to meet that obligation next year, and we'd have to fill it in next year. That's a fair point. Well, for next year, I think if we have policies of ensuring that we're aggressively seeking back taxes on delinquent properties in town, if we move forward, as I've advocated, to have an auction in 2023 for properties owned by the town and put those up for sale so we can gain revenue from that. I think that'll more than offset anything we need to take from the fund in 2023 to more than offset plugging that hole, so we do make it at the cap. And I think it's important just to close on this point as I started. Part of the discussion has been that it's not too many by way of dollars, but as we have on our agenda, we're setting a public hearing for our senior citizens and disability exemptions on taxes. So we're talking about something that may be comparable or not much more money. So we're saying on one hand, well, this amount of money is really important, and we want to have legislation early in 2023 for our senior citizens and the disability exemptions, but we're not saying the same thing shouldn't apply for the rest of the people in town. So I think every dollar counts. And in this, as I said at the outset of this budget process, with inflation what it is, electricity costs what they are, and home heating costs what they are through this winter, a one-time plugging of that gap from our healthy fund balance this year with a plan, as I've outlined, for 2023 to more than offset that is the fiscally prudent plan and is consistent with other municipalities as to how they're approaching their budget process here in Westchester. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Anybody else want to comment specific to the? Well, this took the Rich discussed 2 items, right? Plugging the gap, but also the court line.
I have other ideas. Do you want me to?
Well, let's talk about those first. Go ahead. Go ahead. Present your other ideas.
All right, so I know that in last year's budget, town employees got a 4% raise, and this year, as of the preliminary budget vote last week, there was another 4% raise. Again, our employees work really hard. They deserve a lot more than what their salaries are. That said, I'm very uncomfortable voting to break the tax cap when we've got a recession looming, inflation is crazy. It's just not the right time to vote to break the tax cap. It's just not. But, you know, we got elected to look out for the best interests of the residents, and our employees are valuable and they serve our residents. So it's just not an easy thing to say or do. If we even reduce that raise to 3% instead of 4%, that would be a savings of $9,289. If we took off the stipend to the confidential secretary, that's another $4,000. Not for anything, but I'm not taking my buyback on my insurance, which is $4,000. So I guess I might as well just write a check to the confidential secretary for her stipend straight from my buyback, but that's just how I feel personally. Again, the DPAC, I know that the programs that they promote are very important programs, but I voted to fund that line last year. That is the Drug Action Prevention Council. They're expanding drug abuse prevention. And they are expanding more into the mental health arena, which again, these are very important programs. The problem is they weren't properly promoted or used within our community. And it wasn't just for 1 year, but it was for now 3 years. So the proof is in the pudding. To say that the programs are better or it's going to get better next year. Right now, we're sitting here trying to figure out our budget for next year. We can always add it back in. That's another $6,500. And as we were asked earlier, we were asked whether the town board agreed not to take a raise. Yes, the town board members agreed not to take a raise. However, our town supervisor did not agree to do so. He agreed to reduce the raise that he was seeking, but has not agreed, along with the rest of the town board members, not to take a raise. Now, that would be a savings of approximately $3,036. Again, the confidential secretary would still get the same raise as everybody else. These are just a few ideas. And it brings it down somewhat. Does it bring us down to the tax cap? Sadly, no. But those are just a few items that I saw, and that's it. That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah. Let's see where to start. Well, I don't have a big problem with making that cut to the court clerks. We're kind of trying to learn about it and work the budget at the same time. And the fact is, if work demands it, they're going to have to, put in the hours, and we're going to have to, pay for it somehow. But we can make that change, I suppose. We're still, like a one issue guy, but the roads, they're still not paid for. It's still a big gap. Now we can. Even though Andrew was saying, the money can't go into the general fund, but it is fungible, right? If you pay for them directly, then you don't have that expense in your budget. So sort of indirectly, you can get it. So we could use our ARPA funds on that. My problem with that is just as Rich described with some of these other items. That is a one-time plug. You still have the hole in your budget. You haven't fixed it. It's coming back at you the next time around. I would prefer to see the ARPA funds go to the kind of things that we probably just wouldn't get around to, and look for those things that constitute investments that have a return. For example, energy efficiency stuff for the buildings. You put that in, you save money on a continuing basis going forward. So that, I would like to see those type of investments, and also maybe the kind of investments that, again, we've been sort of poking around for years and years and years around, street safety and areas where we're thinking we need a crosswalk or a sidewalk or something. And just to kind of knock those off, because those are one-off things, so that I'd really like to see some progress made on fixing the huge, and growing hole in the budget for the road paving. We're postponing that as we have year after year.
Not to interject, because I'm picking up on a prior meeting. Tony, did you ever get, I know we were looking for in 2023, we have a certain amount of bond debt service retiring, right? So one option in 2023, and I don't know exactly when in 2023 that happens, but just again, looking to the new calendar year, I'd be fine if we don't have our total debt service, we keep it at the same level once the retiring debt in 2023, and you can utilize that for a long-term investment dedication just for roads.
But there's no way we could get the same rate.
Well, we
And
see
rates
what,
have gone up.
yeah.
And then what happens also is if we have another round of financing, you're gonna add to the debt service.
Yeah, I think the
So-
point was you're reducing your debt service, so you have space to increase another line item, specifically the roads, right, at that time, and that would be an ongoing thing. Then where you're-
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Which is fine. I think that reduction was practically like $120,000 or something like that. Which
Well,
is
yeah,
good.
also the timing may be
Right.
good because we look at it when that comes out. Hopefully, the interest rates start to turn and come back down in the next year. So hopefully, as a confluence of events that make it something
Yeah,
and
but
costs and supply chain things. So maybe we're in a more beneficial environment at the time that debt retires in 2023. We're getting more bang for the buck as we would right now, 6 months, 9 months from now.
That's very hard to say. 'Cause
Yeah,
certainly.
but again, keep in mind that every
asphalt
year,
and things like that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect those prices to be going downwards, given what happens in the energy and petrochemical industries,
but also every year, we have around April timeframe is when we look at any capital expenses and any borrowing associated with that, right? So if there's a new band that we're gonna be pursuing, that's gonna potentially fill in some of the debt service that was reduced.
Well,
right?
it's a perfect, those things are perfect things to look at, to shoot for in the first quarter of 2023. To take a look at from projects we want to address with remaining ARPA funds, and we could take a look at the highway and big picture things when we're out of the time constraints of the budget. And it's a perfect opportunity in the first quarter to look at that. Hopefully we have things are running smoothly with building department. We could focus on a little bit of those big picture issues in the first quarter of 2023.
So fine, and we'll certainly do that. Anyway, the roads are still significantly way underfunded for sure.
There's many things we have to look at. Let's face it, folks. The only way to pay for the roads is you're gonna bond for it, or you're gonna start setting money aside and create a line item in a budget that we continue to fund and build on over time to get to where we need to be to pave up to 7 miles a year or whatever it is that we need to do. Those are the only two options.
You're talking about capital budget, not a line item in the budget.
Correct. Well, no, the line item in the budget, in the highway. No, I meant moving forward.
But that comes from where? That's
Texas.
Exactly.
That's my point. That's my
requires-
point to the
yeah.
public. The feedback that I've gotten from last week to this week has been significantly, please do not break the tax cap. And last week, we all had a conversation in which we entertained the idea of adding $150,000 and creating a line in the highway budget that we would continue to build upon over the next few years again and again, because once you put it in there, then you increase it slightly every year and you can still technically remain in the tax cap, but build upon it. So at some point, we have something substantial in there for our highway department to use for roads. And we asked the public, for input, if we were going to break the tax cap, because we wanted to put $150,000 in there so that we could start fixing the roads on a regular basis. How would you feel about that? I got no feedback really on that at all. The only feedback I got was, well, does that mean it'll fix Route 35? Well, obviously the answer is no, because that's not our road, but it would fix Main Street. It would fix Glenda Favors cul-de-sac. It would fix, so we have to start thinking about that as a community and understanding where that money comes from. So in response to the feedback that I got is the stance that I'm taking this evening. But if I had feedback that said, you know what, Andrea, I wouldn't mind breaking the tax cap if I knew we were starting a line in the highway budget that would allow us to build upon and do that. But that's not what I got back. So we're back to either we bond for the roads or next year, we're looking at another tax increase. And hopefully next year, when hopefully all of us will be in a better position financially, hopefully we'll get past this inflation and past the recession and we can revisit it. But Dan has brought up a good point, and I don't want to ignore his good point. It just, I don't feel we're in the position to answer it, and it makes me sad, but we have to think about that as a community.
So let me just, the bonding is not really, in a sense, another alternative. Bonding simply pushes all the payments to the future for somebody else to deal with, basically. This is an annual thing. You have to plug that hole in order to fix the problem. Bonding doesn't do that. The roads don't get cheaper to fix over time. They get more expensive as the level of degradation goes down. So, I'm just raising the flag. And certainly if you go out and you ask people, should we break a tax cap? There's not a year where you go out where they don't say don't break the tax cap. And we've been in more or less a state of financial crisis since I got onto the board, back in the dinosaur days. I came in 2008 when the financial crash happened, and that's when we were slashing and burning the furniture, and those budgets were never restored really. And there hasn't been a year since then when we could have gone out and asked people, we break the tax cap. We did it a few times along the way.
But you are also for multiple years tapping into whatever was in the general fund.
We didn't even into the reserve.
And the reserve.
And it was
Which is-
depleted.
It was depleted to nothing initially, and we worked for years along the lines that you talked about, adding a bit each year to build that back. But it concerns me because it's kind of hiding a big deficit there. And I don't know that next year is going to be any better than this year. There's no, it's you have to add that money in. And yes, I do say this often that if it's adding $150,000 to the budget is it's about $40, or something like that to the average. And I know you hate to hear that, but that's what it is relative to the $15,000 or something you're paying in taxes and on all kinds of things to pave the roads. Like there's nothing more fundamental for government to do than to maintain the infrastructure. We're not doing it today. We're just not.
Question, can we use the state money under law? Can we use state money that I'm asking our outstanding state officials to maybe get for us for local roads? Or we precluded from doing it?
We could certainly ask, let's see if there's grants available. I mean, one of the things that I mentioned at a prior meeting is tapping into the infrastructure, the federal infrastructure monies to build back better.
But those are one-off. If you're saying, can we appeal to them to fund our roads every year? Then I think the answer is definitely no.
Correct.
Well, it's just even if it,
You're limited to the chips. That's the only program that
That's the whole.
that's
That's the
that's it.
program that's made for that.
Yeah. Now, we talked about the culverts, and I took from Peter, putting up Peter's, our superintendent. We took the $310,000+ out of the budget because we identified as a grant opportunity with New York State, the Bridge New York, which we actually just started working on it this past week. So it's the deadline of mid-January. So we're going to get that grant application in, and hopefully that'll get us to 310 plus to 350. We're going to go for more.
It's something we
For
should
the
think
culvert.
about and do research, because I mean, this is
Yeah.
not, we're not unique in this, in the locality in Westchester having difficulty with their roads. So I mean, it's a big issue across a lot of,
We are unique
County.
in our, where we are in our budget, at least relative to neighbors, as most of them. If you look on a per capita basis, take their budget, divide by the number of people,
Oh, yeah.
they're like 2 times.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
Bedford's like 3 times what we are. So we're working with a lot less for sure.
Right. Now, to go back from where we are with this, the numbers I just reviewed, and get close to, or very near the, where we were before with the preliminary, we had to take away that $50,000, the mortgage tax adjustment that I made. With the preliminary, we had bumped that up by 50,000. Here, I took it away. If you want to put that back,
no, we'll
but in
lease.
consultation with lease, the
Yeah.
recommendation was to not touch that.
Right.
So
I agree with
right
that.
now, it doesn't look like we're gonna get to where we were, which is already above the tax cap.
Right, which I
Unless
gave
we
my.
start cutting budgets from, the various departments.
Not
the
cutting
police, the
anything.
highway,
I'm not
yeah.
cutting anything. My proposal was my proposal to take it for this year, one time only, as I said at the outset of the budgetary process. And then in 2023, we have an opportunity to go after revenue as far as people who are delinquent as far as taxes, which has been lax. It could be much more aggressive than it has been, and pursuing if there's foreclosure opportunities, as well as selling any properties that we have available that the town owns. So those 3 components are something that we need to actively go after and ensure that they're implemented in 2023.
Yeah, I don't know if tax liens can be considered plugged in as a revenue piece. I know with foreclosures, if there's lien on the property you sell, you can't, the sell price is not.
No, not a revenue
Does that
piece,
become
not a revenue piece, but I think about a year ago, there was several $100,000 in outstanding property taxes in town. So that's something we should aggressively go after. That's money that the town is owed. And the town should be paying attention to that. There should be periodic lists. I know during COVID, it was one thing because there were moratoriums on this, but now we're back to where we were pre-COVID as far as that. So we have to periodically review the town's inventory for any people
I
who are
agree with that.
behind.
But
And so that's an opportunity. That's money that has to be collected and addressed the same way if.
and that helps our general fund, right? But it doesn't plug the revenue gap, right? That you create by adding a revenue line with funds from the general fund. Now, in discussing with our controller, I asked him about that idea, right? He's against it. He's got more experience than I have. I'm not a controller, but I have been working very closely with him and plugging away with this thing for quite some time.
Sorry, he's against what?
Against filling our overage, our tax cap overage with funds from surplus, right?
With the reserve.
Yeah.
Right, it's a one-time thing that I'm recommending in this year because it's an unprecedented time for this. So this year, I'm recommending that we proceed forward in that way, just this year for 2022. And based upon monies that we've spent on other things, we're talking about $78,000, which ensures that everybody in our town benefits as other municipalities by not exceeding the tax cap for 2022, particularly difficult year. Period. That's my view.
Okay, so Mary, do you have anything to say about that? I mean, let's stick to that point, because then,
Well, the first is we can also go back on, because Dan had addressed on the court $5,000. About putting that $5,000 in the court costs back to the $10,000 figure, which we.
yeah, but if you're looking at talking to the fund balance, the reserve or surplus, it's all coming from the same pot. Why wouldn't you keep that buffer in there for the court? If they use it, they use it. If they don't use it, it's money that remains in the general fund.
Because based upon what I said, my review from 2017 through and
Yeah,
including
well,
2022,
yeah.
it's not necessary.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
haven't seen those exact numbers or the review that you did, but.
Well,
what
what
is-
I did is I went online, I looked at the
Yeah.
prior budgets, I looked at the town documents that
Okay.
gave me 2017, 2018, 2019.
Mhm.
And 21 and 22 was taken from the memo which we received, I think last Friday. So that's where I got it from.
Mhm. Okay. So how does the board feel about that item, the court item? Andrew, go back to 10 or leave it at 15? I just don't want to get into a situation where the court, they end up reaching that limit, right? And it's not budgeted for.
Well,
Obviously, they will tap into
well-
the general fund again.
Well, town departments as well as the town in general, as well as all of us we have to try and live within our means and what we have budgeted.
Right.
Period. That's what we have to try and do. It's no different, and that doesn't mean if something unforeseen or an emergency situation happens,
Yeah.
then we'll deal with that. But at least we have a policy goal of trying to live a little bit leaner. Again, based upon the fact that in 2017, 2018, 2019, 3 years, there was not that budgeted line. And I didn't hear any issue in 2017, 2018, 2019, that the court wasn't able to operate during the day and wasn't able to have sufficient court nights as part of its schedule. I didn't hear any problem about that. Been in town 24 years. I never heard anything about it. So I'm presuming it was okay and they were able to muddle through. I'm still saying we have our 2 full-time clerks. They should get the 4% as raise as everybody else, the longevity component that they have, and just reducing it from 15,000 to 10, which is also $10,000 more than it was in 2017, 18, and 19. So
Okay.
based upon historical review of our budget documents.
Right.
Tony, you asked Andrea and you didn't let her finish.
Sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
I didn't say anything.
No.
I'm still perplexed. I'm not a fan of reducing that particular budget, knowing what it is that they do in the court. I, as an attorney, I've been in that court many nights. And I know what they do and the need for 2 clerks to be in there. And I know, so it's hard for me to say. Unfortunately, I don't have the information as to how much they were required to tap into that fund for that purpose over the past few years, whether there was a balance left, whether they used the full 15 or not. It's hard for me to say.
2000, that's the memo was 2021, it was just over 10,000. 2022, the projection is just over 10,000. Based upon the memo from the court itself.
Yeah. So going by your analysis, that would then mean that we should be reducing that line in the police budget as well, right? They have a budgeted item based on what they expect their participation in the court will be.
No, actually, as a matter of fact, by doing that, it will have a potentially beneficial effect because if there's less court time, and this is why I was talking about it before, but as correctly cautioned by our town attorney, I'm not here to micromanage or tell the court how to do their business. But if there's less court nights, then there's less need for court for the police on those nights.
But to your logic,
There's not going to be less court nights. They're required to have so many court nights per month.
from the-
Two. They're required to have 2.
How
One,
long court lasts is a different story. How many
Right.
hours court lasts is a different story.
Agreed.
There are nights that I have been in Lewisboro where I'm there for an hour, and there are times that I had been there where I was there till 11 o'clock. It depends not only on how many cases they have on, but sometimes it depends on the case that's before the judge.
So stipulated.
So so you're aware with this, putting it back to 10K rather than 15K, it's a less than 1.1% change. It's 3.62 versus 3.69.
Okay, I'll look at it as $5,000. That's all.
Okay, fine. So you're in favor of keeping it in as they requested, Andrew, 15,000?
I am.
Dan?
I mean, I could cut it if the predominant opinion is to keep it at 15. I'm not lying down in front of any bulldozers for this one because I think, they will put in the hours they need to
Right.
get the job done.
They will either way, right?
And they have to. And then, it's coming out to 10,000 a year, then.
Okay,
Great.
so you want 10,000. I'm in favor of keeping it at 15. Mary?
The basis of the number is that the two courts average between 450 and 550 hours a year. They're legally obliged to have court open when they do, as because of regulations. I think we should keep the $5,000 in.
Keep the total of 15?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just, okay, well, okay, I guess I'm gonna be outvoted on this, but it's puzzling in hearing what the history was about how it was able to run not too many years ago. So, but I'm outvoted on that, so be it.
Okay. So now the question is so we're at this overage of 78,994. With a tax rate of.
Well, Andrea proposed a bunch of stuff too. Are you putting those sort of officially on the table?
Yes.
The APC. I'm definitely not, as you know, in favor of cutting our participation in the drug abuse prevention council.
We'll just let her put them up then, and we'll just, I guess, take it in seriatim.
What's that?
Seriatim.
We could do that too.
Seriatim, right?
So I'm also in favor of leaving it in. The program is being restructured. Monies that haven't been spent are still there. So I'm in favor of keeping it in. And I think it's going to be needed. And they're actually looking for more volunteers from the town of Lewisboro to be part of this committee. So if anyone is interested in joining the APC, can reach out to me. Or Mary and Andrew are actually the two liaisons, I would say.
Okay, so we're on the DAPC one?
The APC, yeah.
Yes,
Right, $6,500.
yeah, I'll leave that in. Seriatim, taking one subject after another, regular order, point by point.
Now, in terms of the salaries, I mean, 4% is, I said that last time, I don't want to go below that. I think it's a 0.1% difference. You don't want to ruin employee morale. The employees work hard.
No
I
doubt.
don't want to be looking for replacements. We have people that have been here for years. I don't know for replacements lately. So I don't want to touch salaries, period. That's my opinion.
So which item is?
I had
Yeah,
proposed reducing the raises from 4% to 3% for savings of approximately $9,289.
So you're putting that forward and you're looking for a second on that?
So I'm against it.
Well, she needs it, it's a proposal, so to see if there's a second, that's where we're going.
Right, so who's the second?
I can't.
I know, let me tell you, this was not fun for me. It's not fun for me. I looked everywhere. This is not.
It's a brutal process, but
It's brutal.
we have to pay the people
And
who
the
work for us
and the
and
tax-
provide the services.
Any other one?
It was a proposal for discussion because I really went through this budget and tried to find anywhere I possibly could to save. The next item I had was the $4,000 stipend to the confidential secretary. And to that end, I have a job in the town of Harrison. And due to certain circumstances that exist there, I've had my workload almost double. Nobody's paying me a stipend.
Salary increase?
Nope. I get one
Really?
that's,
Zero.
no, I get a salary increase that's written into the contract. It's the same every year for every employee. It's not something,
What
so
is that?
I don't even know. It was minimal. So, it
It's a
comes every
multi-term-
year. It's
multi-year term.
multi-year term. Well, no, I'm deputy village attorney. My term is 1 year.
Right.
Every time my contract is renewed, like for lack of a better term, every time I'm reappointed to that position, that year it gets an increase. All of the employees, all 4 attorneys get paid the same, but for one who volunteered to take a pay decrease because he's not there
What was your
one day.
increase from last year to this year?
I don't even remember off the top of my head, but it's written in. It's not something I asked for.
Yeah.
It's something that's given to every employee every year as it's somewhere written in the contract, I was told.
Okay.
So. But I don't have, from the time that this issue arose to now, I haven't gotten a stipend for that. For the additional work on the new projects that I've never seen before, for all of that,
So
for.
stipends are done. There's multiple stipends within our budget
So,
today.
no, I'm just
There's
saying as an
stipends
example,
other- Yeah.
as deputy village attorney, whatever the workload
Yeah.
is the workload that I cover. I don't go and look for a stipend for it.
You
I'm not
pay-
looking for
yeah.
a raise for it. I get paid what I get paid according to what the contract is. And that's it.
Right.
So to me, there are some years where there's more work to do than others.
Right.
They come in waves. So, this year, if there's more work on grants that needs to be done, then you get it done. Next year, there may not be that much. But
Well, I'm
it-
hoping to
it-
continue the trend. $4 million in grant money in 2 years. That's a pretty.
So-
I'm
success
so what-
record.
saying
what's
the job is the job.
So what-
Confidential
The job
secretary's
is the job, but.
is
So what's-
to,
so what-
is to,
Yeah.
let me finish.
Yeah.
The job is to aid in you doing your job. And whatever it is that you
To a certain extent.
discretionarily ask her to do for you, she's supposed to help you do.
Right.
That's the point of having an
Yeah.
administrative assistant at that level.
So what's-
She has additional duties, but I'm saying,
True.
I don't.
And those
I
duties
don't-
are benefits
right,
administrator,
so-
insurance
And I
administrator.
understand all that.
Well, that's discussion. So is there a motion? You have a motion, Andrew, on that?
I didn't know we were doing this by motion. These
I
aren't
don't think-
motions.
okay.
This is just
There's no motion.
Do you want to do it a mo? Okay.
Oh, but it's sensible. It's
It's a
sensible
budget
work.
On the item? Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
right.
But I mean, right now, we just basically take the sense of the board and.
Okay.
straw poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Straw poll
look,
it, and-
I'm entitled to take a $4,000 buyback for not taking my insurance benefit. $4,000 is a lot of money, and let me tell you, right now,
Yeah, but you had a
I
hard
could
time.
totally
We
use it.
spoke a lot about that today. You had a hard time.
I had a
figuring out
hard
whether or not-
time.
And you had.
a
discussed
hard
it
time. I had to discuss it with my husband.
Okay.
Because it's a
So-
significant amount of money that we could actually use right now. And we decided together that I would give it back to the town and I wasn't gonna take it,
Right.
okay?
That was a choice. I mean,
That was- it is a choice.
We all give back to the town in different ways. I don't need to list out the ways I've given back to this town. But we do give back to the town.
I have a question. Are there any other creation of any new stipends in this budget besides the confidential secretary for this year's budget?
There's no new creation, no.
Okay,
No.
so based upon that, I think the confidential secretary should get the 4% increase as the other town employees do, so. So I think she should be treated exactly as the other town employees, and that's why I believe the 4% should be there, it shouldn't be any less. So that's.
And I disagree because of the increased workload.
No,
since
but
I
no,
came on the
I
job.
love just.
Can I finish? Can
Well, I
finish?
didn't finish
Can I
my point. I didn't finish what my
Okay,
point
go ahead.
was. I was just
Go ahead.
finishing, yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
that's
Yeah.
my point is the fact that not that it's picking who's everybody's, as was brought up here
Yeah.
and brought up absolutely correct, as you said, that all the employees in our town are working hard, which is why all of them deserve an increase, and that's why I think they all deserve the 4% increase, as was brought up by Lee's, and
Yeah.
the sacrifice that people made and continued to work during the pandemic and going above and beyond. So that's why I'm sticking with the 4% for all employees, confidential secretary, and every other one in town that are getting it.
So she's working out of her original title role, right? Out of hers, it's definitely away from what civil service dictates should be doing. I came in with different demands than a prior supervisor. So with the work that we've been doing and she's been helping me with, it has resulted in us getting additional grants successfully. And I want to keep that going.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I take all that at face value,
Yeah.
and I appreciate all of
So
her
that's my
contributions.
position.
Yeah,
whether-
I appreciate all of her valuable contributions. They're terribly important for the running of the town.
Right.
She's an integral part of making the town run, and I appreciate it and have gratitude for
We
it.
could do like the town of Rye, where the confidential secretary became town administrator.
Well, I think that's kind,
Potentially.
that's, we're kind of heading in that direction in the sense that she has a skill set.
Very broad skill set, very,
that
very
goes
broad. Yeah.
Way beyond
It's-
what, typical
And I'm tapping into
administrative
it.
assistant.
Right.
And we are beneficially tapping into that for the to the benefit of the town, so.
And
I
I
need
think,
somebody
I think
that's
there are
gonna-
other departments in the town that could use that $4,000 more than the confidential secretary line. There's other employees, there's other heads of departments, there's other assistants, the heads of departments that could use that money. One of the problems that we have is that we can't attract qualified people to come and work in our departments when we lose those people. Not only that, we have other people that have been here for years, or, I mean, we even have, our Parks and Rec department. I talked to her every time, we have a woman there that's not a superintendent, but she's doing the job of a superintendent, and she's only getting paid a fraction of what that position, I know we're waiting for a test.
No,
We're
no, no,
waiting
no,
for
no,
test.
I'm not waiting for a test. Let me just clarify.
You know-
So, no, let me just clarify.
Okay.
She responded to an ad for rec supervisor with a stated salary.
Yes,
That's what she's earning.
correct.
Now, when the right time comes, she'll get compensated accordingly. And so
I
you're
understand,
saying
but
she should get a supervisor.
she's
or a
doing,
superintendent salary.
she's doing more than the job that she applied for, is my point.
Okay.
And she's not getting a stipend, is she?
Right.
That's just another example of
I don't
somewhere
know
else.
those personnel details, but
I
this
just-
is with.
That's fine. I'm
every
just
new
using it
hire,
as an
every
example.
new hire goes through a probation period. Right, so it would be unfair to hire this person, give him probation, and then give this other person after 3 months, give them a raise. Without probation.
I'm using it as an
But it-
example.
This is a bad example.
Well, the same way, Tony, I support your 4% increase. I support the confidential secretary's 4% increase and no increase for myself,
Yeah.
the same as last year, the last 2 years. So that's just.
Well, I want to stick with the stipend. I mean, I've been overloading my assistant with a lot of work. And I need that support, and I need the continued support.
I take that at face value, and it's very important and very valued. Absolutely.
Of course, at face value, because you don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Right, which is
Right?
why,
You don't know
which is
what goes
why,
on with
which
the
is why
six people
I'm,
that are in this townhouse, so, yeah.
right, which is why I'm totally agreeing that's important and valued, and that's why
Okay.
she should get the same increase that you
Yeah.
get and everybody else that's working hard
Right.
for the township. That's all.
Well, I still think the stipend is deserved, just like stipends for other people have been deserved. And that's my position.
Okay.
And then that just leaves your raise.
Which again, I'm a full-time employee, so I'm gonna maintain my raise.
I support that.
Thank you.
I thought you were voting on the stipend.
No, the
Voting on
town
the budget.
attorney said we're voting.
We're voting on the budget.
Thought it was the stipend.
So the question that's left here regarding the budget is, do you want to move forward with this, or do you want to keep the preliminary? I guess that's the motion, right? We need to motion.
Well, then,
So maybe we need to adopt the 2022 budget, which is the preliminary, and then divide. Those of us that whatever.
Right.
well, no, actually, we have the preliminary, the preliminary that we voted on adopted was at 2982 increase.
Right.
And the preliminary budget, and that was voted on 5-0 by the board last Monday. And now the other possibility is the 3693. So I'll put it the third one to take from the fund balance and bring it down to the
Okay.
yeah, I was looking for the number 2.62, yes. So that would be my motion.
With the latest changes, including the mortgage taxes, that's the big one.
Yes, I'm fine. Yes, so, okay,
So
so,
that's the currently
Yes.
3.693.
right, and to
then
fill that hole with the,
78,000.
yes, to fill that hole with the 78,994 from the fund balance, so we don't exceed the tax
So it
cap.
would be, we put a negative number in the fund restoration line,
You would have to,
the fund balance restoration line.
yeah.
Or there's nothing in there right now. For some reason.
And by doing so, we balanced, we don't exceed the tax cap number one. We preserve the increases for our town employees who deserve them. We have the conservative projections, which the supervisor has gotten by canvassing multiple times various department heads, including Lisa who's here, highway superintendent, police, maintenance. So we have, that gives us a sound fiscal budget, number one, based upon important input from everybody. We take care of our employees and we balance the, we don't exceed the tax cap for this year. We go to the 262. That's my motion.
Fund balance restoration. So if I add, that's the line
You
you're
have to-
referring to,
you
right?
have to, right, put it in a negative. In other words, that represents the transfer from surplus.
That would be
78,994.
78994.
So if I do that, I'm just make sure. Back to the tax rate. Are people on Zoom seeing this? Probably not. Yeah.
You're getting music and please stand by.
Well, someone wants you to answer the question about
So-
other people, other stipends in the budget.
Someone,
Carol.
Who?
Carol asked about other.
she's asking, yeah. I'll let somebody wants to answer that.
She's just checking them out.
Okay, so that brings it to 2.622. That's the, and just for the folks on Zoom, what I did was I decreased the fund balance restoration line by the deficit that we have, which is 78,904. And that brings our, what's this number?
So hold on a second. That
Well,
line
they- isn't-
started- that
115, that's the contingency budget that
Leo said was.
that Leo said was
You have other,
for health, for medical.
oh, right. Okay, so that's,
And that's my, part of my concern is,
yeah.
you're taking away from that line that's
But
already there
it
to
was
cover
contingency for the insurance.
for the
Increases?
the union, potential union increases and the medical for employees and retirees.
All right, so that needed to be there. Okay,
So by doing this, you're taking it away from that line.
well.
I mean, you're
taking
tapping
it's
into the
coming
same
from
fund.
surplus.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, again, I don't have any problem at all with using that surplus, but what it just, I'm really gun shy about it in as much as I've already seen it, lived through all these budgets where we built these holes that,
And that's what,
nobody, everybody thought, wow, look at us, we're financially,
and that's a concern that Leo
prudent.
expressed to me.
And
And that's how the
you know,
crisis we had years ago
it
started.
comes back to bite you.
Yeah, Dan, you're right, except we haven't had a year like this where we've had interest, inflation, the highest in 40 years, plus the home heating oil costs, plus gasoline and everything like that. We haven't had that combination of things. That hasn't happened in decades.
Okay, and again, this is, about $40 for those households. Nothing,
But if you don't do this,
you're not gonna change.
if you don't do this in a property assessed, like I showed in my pie chart, it's an extra $10.
Police, as far as the legislation, I know you gave the proposal, I'm putting you on the spot again.
No, go ahead.
The amount of money for the legislation that you recommended that we enact in the new year, which we have to have in place in April, what would the average savings for town taxes be for those people?
Look, it depends on their income, and when you
Understood.
start till 2024, they apply next year.
Right.
So we kind of budget for that for 2024.
Right,
But it gives a resident, they can earn gross up to 58,400 just to get a 5% reduction. That 5% could really help them.
and that 5% reduction would turn into, we talk average amount of money that would savings at the town
Let's
level?
say, yeah, I mean, if your town tax, because they'll get it off the town, the county, and we don't know what the school's gonna do yet. And that's 77% of the total tax burden of the school. And
Right,
that's-
so what I'm saying is the savings could be, we could be talking about the same 40 or $50 for a
Yeah.
local taxpayer as we're talking about savings
Yeah.
in this budget. That's my point, thank you.
And, the county budget is going down next year. So,
Right.
when we went up a little last year and the county went down, people did see a decrease in their county.
Cool. Thank you for that information.
Just want to do a quick calculation here. Lisa, I'm looking at the sales tax number
Mhm.
that you
Yeah.
had shared.
Yeah, you budgeted 2,715,000, came in at 3,000,000.
The actual was 3,171, at least.
Yeah, I have it
677 and 2,750 is the
So-
budget, which you said was sound.
So the last payment that was made in November for sales tax collected in July to September was 803,961.
That is correct, yeah.
So can we assume that that could be a potential trend going forward, that 803 number?
You
So
know,
if you did that,
only because the county runs like 2 months behind, so when they give you your first payment in February, it's really gonna be for November, December, January.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, correct.
set up. I mean, the 803, if I did that. Multiplied by 4, that's 3.2 million versus the 3.1. Which is the total of all payments made to Lewisboro in 2022.
Right. I
So
mean,
it's
I'd still
over.
be
So-
comfortable with the 2,750, maybe go up to 2,800, you got, 50,000.
That's what I'm thinking of, because that rather than,
You could probably feel
Yeah.
comfortable still doing that.
So could you do that on the revenue page then?
so,
To see
so
what
let me
happens?
undo this change. And then what I'm gonna do is, general revenue.
Well, if you just from the 3,121, you reduced it by exactly 20, 10% off of that. That would bring it somewhere in the middle. I guess.
There it is.
So
So add 50,000.
2.8 million.
That's a sufficiently conservative projection. You're comfortable with that?
That's still conservative. I think it would be better.
Okay,
And
so,
you know, where the tax we made, well, you never know.
so that means we're over the tax cap at 28,994. That's a tax rate of 3.015.
Great.
I'd rather do that than tap into the general fund $80,000.
Okay, so now we just have to do it by 28,994.
You're saying to go into the reserve by 28?
Yes, so we don't exceed the cap like other municipalities in Westchester are doing, at or below the cap. Yes,
So then I have to go back to. Okay, so it's there. That's the 28,994.
And there it
That brings
is.
us to the cap.
so we have that on the screen for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion to adopt that budget as amended.
Do I have a second?
To re-itemize the changes from the preliminary that was, before we put this to bed. Go back.
I mean, we itemize what we.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
sorry.
ready to do this.
So
So let me,
Restate.
okay, so let me do that.
do you want,
Yeah, I can read that off my list and let's see the changes here, so. The court hours, so we kept it at the 15,000. We had a bump up in the new controller salary to 115K. We had the correction on the deputy town clerk salary. There's a difference between the stipend.
$1,000 and change.
1,040.
Yeah.
We removed the building inspector longevity, 1,500. We used $5 adjustment on the highway superintendent salary. And then the mortgage tax, we put that back to the original number of 650K.
650. And changing the sales tax projection from 2,750 to
And
2,800.
Correct. And also the highway chips, that didn't have an impact here because it was a net zero change. Additional 80,000 in chips money
170 to 250 on the revenue side
and
and,
then 170 to 250.
on the expense side as far as increasing for the road.
So that's on the
repaving line.
highway fund budget. And
1,500 for the
and we
Parks and
added-
Rec.
we added
Longevity.
longevity for the Parks and Rec supervisor, which had been erroneously left out.
And you remove the building department, because of longevity
I did say
item.
that.
Yeah, we
Did
did
that already?
that.
I'm sorry.
So that's it.
What was
That's
the sales tax?
the sales tax is now
2,750 to 2,800.
2,800,000.
2,800,000. 2,750,000.
From 2.75 to 2.8 million.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, here it is, 2.8 million. Okay.
All right,
And
and
what did we decide on the stipend?
I like to keep it. We got the
I know
numbers
you made
here.
that, you made that clear, and
Yeah.
I made my opinion clear, and Rich made his opinion clear.
Okay, what's your
Dan
opinion?
said he wanted to keep it. And
Mary,
What if we split the difference?
we already lowered it.
To
from where I
4,000,
wanted it to
right?
be. It
It's
was at
4.
5, we went to 4. And that's the value that I'm putting on the extra work that I've provided her.
I don't. Tony, I know you really want it, but
You have to remember,
I know how
she's
much.
supporting me on, and I rely heavily on her work. Because of her work, my transition has been easy. I've been able to hit the ground running with this job. And on top of what was already being done, I'm giving her more. So, I want to have a good person to support me and support the office, because that'll only enable me to continue doing what I'm doing for the town.
Okay, I support the
Thank you.
stipend.
Thank you. So now,
Okay, so
now we motion to adopt the
Well,
So-
I think,
So with the itemized changes as gone through on the record by the supervisor, move to adopt the budget, which is at the cap of 2.622%.
so we didn't.
So,
second,
discussion?
yeah, I'll just, roll call for it.
Okay, we need a roll call for,
Yeah.
okay.
We're up to discussion.
Yeah, I think, everybody worked really hard on this. I appreciate it. And lots of input from the public. A little uncomfortable with the degree to which we sort of lightly dealt with personal details here in these budget discussions. I've never quite seen it quite so personal before and directed relative to individual employees. So that's kind of disturbing. I hope we can sort of come back from that. And we still, I'm not crazy about this, and there's still a huge hole in this budget, in the form of the roads, and we've always, we've used the roads as a cash buffer to fix the budgets, for years and years. And I'm just laying that out for the public, because it's not real economics, because it comes back to bite you. And it's gonna be expensive to catch up.
And that,
So,
yeah,
anyway,
I'd like to just express my appreciation to the supervisor for his diligence during the budget process and going back and evaluating the soundness of our projections on the revenue side. So we have a fiscally sound budget, which is at the tax cap.
Yeah, I'll just say, it's been a collaborative effort. I agree with Dan, some of the, the hits at several departments were really unnecessary. And I think we just need to realize that we do have a very limited number of employees who work hard. And we need to do our best to support them in every way possible. And I'd also like to thank Leo Masterson, even with his current situation, being available, to help me, he handed over this job to me, or else he would have been the one here presenting over the last couple of work sessions. So I'd like to thank Leo for all his work and making himself available to me as needed.
Thank you, Leo. Godspeed. Okay, so we just already do a roll call?
No, we're not done with
I'm sorry,
discussion yet.
Yes, please, I'm sorry.
Andrea?
I think that some of the most important people in this town obviously are our employees who work really, really hard. So I appreciate any sacrifice that they've made in the past. It's not that they don't deserve a 4% raise. Please, you guys deserve a lot more than that. But we're really, really trying. And that's why we analyze this, all of us, line by line by line. There's no personal attacks here. It's just where is there spending that could be less or non-existent? How else are you supposed to approach it? I mean, we would all like to have, a nice $750,000 roads line. That would be really, really nice. I would really like to be able to pay our department heads and employees comparable salaries to the other towns. Lewisboro doesn't have the commercial tax base to support that. It's not going to change. And we all try to put our heads together to come up with alternative revenue streams, et cetera, to try to figure it out. This is tough. I did not take salary last year, nor did I take benefits last year. I don't need them. I'm very lucky. I don't look, I'm lucky. I don't need to take the benefits from this position. Not other people don't have that luxury. It's a luxury. So I'm very happy not to. The town's offered me a buyback for that. My benefits are worth approximately $31,000. And in exchange for that, they were willing to pay me $4,000 to save $26,000. For next year, I'm willing to give that $4,000 back. So I'm willing to make those sacrifices. $4,000, let me tell you, it's holiday season. It's a tough time right now. Any family could use that money. I have a daughter going to law school next year. God knows I could use that extra $4,000. So we all continue to sacrifice, and I will, I'm going to continue to do my best to serve the town in this fashion. And that's all I have to say. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, all of you, because we may not agree. But I have to say, there has been numerous conversations.
What time last night were we on the phone?
Late. But there's been numerous conversations, and they've all been productive conversations and an exchange of opinions and ideas. And, part of our job is not always to agree, but I respect every single one of the members on this town board and their opinions. And I think it's just important that no matter what, that you recognize good ideas when they come up, you support each other whenever you can, and you have, good debate over things like this. So thank you, everyone.
It's been hard work. And part of the budget is it's painful, and to make certain decisions that are going to hurt. And we've tried to be responsible in approaching this budget and be fiscally responsible to not only our employees, but the people who pay the taxes. It's not a perfect budget. I'm the first to admit it. I did not take benefits last year, and I'm not taking benefits this year from the town, and I'm not taking the buyback either. I'm giving it for the general fund, and I will do what I can to try and fill what holes we can, however we can. I didn't agree with all of the decisions that were made tonight. But we kept it under the tax cap.
And I just hope that when we use the additional money, the 8,000 between the two of us, it goes to something that the town really needs.
Right, it's actually 62,000.
Yes, in savings. I really want to see it go to something that the town needs to have done. Necessary or emergencies. That's where I want to see it go.
I move that we close discussion.
Second.
Well, we're
For discussion, we're, yeah, so the discussion, so all in favor.
I think we had a roll call.
Roll
Roll call.
Yeah.
Andrew,
No.
Dan,
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
Shaw votes yes.
All right, so we have a 2023 adopted budget that's not the cap. Thank you all. We do have a public comment session that's on the agenda as the next item, so just stop sharing here. Okay, anyone here want to speak?
This is about anything.
Yes.
Correct.
That was brutal. I want to thank everyone for working towards this. Mary, I'm a little shaken by you because I thought you were going one way and then Tony begged, and you went the other way because you have a good heart. But sometimes in this business, the heart hurts. That's my opinion. Tony, Dan said that he was kind of taken aback by how people spoke about personnel. And I get that. I still think the stipend is wrong, fiscally irresponsible. You seem to be so defensive about it. But what I just wanted to say, Tony, I was really disappointed in you. And when you went after Andrea and started questioning her about her job and what did you get and what did you do and did you get an increase? That's what Dan should have been discussing about his disappointment in how we speak about other people. That to me, Andrea's a way better person than me because that would have went down quite differently if I was sitting there. And I just need you to know that that was disappointing. Rich, thank you for hearing and listening and trying to come up with plans. Andrea, thank you as usual for listening and trying to come up with plans. Dan, I'm trying to say something nice. You did have some nice ideas about paving the roads. Well, I'd like to end it on a positive note, but you always vote a certain way. So it's hard for me to believe that you really listen. You just have one. So whatever it is, I hope our roads get paved one day. State roads, more importantly, because I've seen people have accidents on 35. We have a lot more work to do, but I'm happy at where we are. And when I leave, it's not for any other reason. I thank everybody, but I have to go. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
You as well.
Anybody else here? Peter, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
First of all, again, thank you to the board. As you know, I'm a highway superintendent, also been living in town my whole life. I've got over 40 years invested in this town and different jobs that I've done in this town. I'm very proud of it. And I will continue throughout my term when that ceases and I'm gone. Glenn DeFavor brought up about the roads. Yes, I did 3.5 miles of roads today. Should we be doing? We should be doing 7 and 8 miles without a blink and without not. What happened this year? We lost $42,000, an increase in fuel to asphalt. That cut a road out, half a road out. A road will cost you 135, 140,000. You've all heard it. The public's heard it. And I'm not proud. I took this job on for the people. People put me in this job. And I said I was going to do that job. I will do whatever I can with the money I'm given. When I first came here, we bonded for 13 miles of road. It took us up to 3 years ago to pay that bond off. So I understand that, and I understand paying taxes. But we have to do the best to get these people back onto safer roads. I think we're doing what we can with our budget, but somehow I know Peter Parsons had done it. tried to put a little bit in the fund balance, tried to help out so we could continue, because when we did those 13 miles, we sort of stopped relatively a little bit. Dan was right. Cornell came down and said, push. Well, you can only push if you got the dollars. And that's all I'm saying. And I appreciate what you're digging for. Look, when I started here, I had 13 employees. I got 10. So we've all had to give, we've all had to do this, everything we've had to do here. Basically, I just want to say, thank you. But we really have to concentrate on these roads. And I hope in the future we somehow come up with this money, because if we don't, we're only hurting all of us and the safety. And again, I'm looking for a couple of people for the winners. I'm short 2 drivers. I hate to bring it up like that, but I don't have it. Okay. And without the help, we'll do the best we can. These guys have taken on many more runs than they've had, and they can't push it any more than we got now. We got to get those 2 drivers. Thank you. And we will do what we have to get.
Thanks, Peter. I do have an update for you on those drivers. I didn't get a chance to email you.
Okay.
So it's
nobody's,
it's a yes. Yeah. Anybody else? Glenn?
You okay?
Well, I think the 4% raise for the employees is well deserved. I've known Lee since she was a assistant in the building department 37 years ago, and she deserves more than she's paid now. And but the thing that bothers me is the inconsistency in everyone except Rich in determining who gets rewarded and who doesn't. Rich brings up the historical dollars that the court got paid, and you still voted more. And don't tell me if there's money in the budget and it's not used, it's going to be there at the end of the year. Nobody leaves money in their budget. And Andrea, you know the courts very well. And they are not overwhelmed. What happened to comp time? What happened to that? That's why there was no overtime. They got comp time. Why did it change to overtime? Did we have a lot of money? Doesn't make sense. As far as the stipend for your secretary, you should get it. You're underpaid. You make less than the guys in the highway department. How the hell you're not going to be the last supervisor here. How do you get people to run on a pay that you're making? You'd have to be nuts.
I guess I'm nuts.
Well, whatever. I like you.
Thank you, Glenn. Like you.
And as far as the roads go, hey, I'm 100% with Dan. You can't put the federal money in the budget. So how did you pay for whatever you did to pay for the playground? Put that in to pave roads, at least $500,000, so we can get back to where we are, because we'll never get back with what you're doing. It's not going to happen. As far as this cap goes, this is a joke, really. It's an accounting gimmick, so everybody thinks that you did everything for us. I know you worked hard, and you twisted everything like a pretzel. But $70,000 extra in the road budget, come on. Take this the right way. As they say, figures can lie and liars can figure. I don't think you are, but you understand what I'm saying. You can make numbers any way you want to comply what you need. But in reality, you didn't do anybody a favor with that budget. And I understand the pain, but either we pay now or we pay a lot more. And roads should be bonded, so they are paid for over the life of the road, and the future residents help pay for that road. Why should I pay for a road that someone's going to use in 10 years? We all should pay. Unfortunately, when bonding was zero cost, it would have been done. But I know Peter didn't like it because he was scared we'd never pay it back. So guys, I appreciate everything. I wouldn't want your job. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Want to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
Yeah. Carol Cernan.
She just disappeared.
She put her hand down, but I don't know if she meant to.
Ask her maybe if she unmutes.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak, Farvey Farm, 70 Spring Street South, South Salem, New York. I would like to know, I have a lot of item lines, so I would like to know, when is the LaBelle officially hired? And the
They're
management,
hired
as of when?
as of the last town board meeting when we approved it.
Okay, so the previous general contractors that were hired to fill in.
Still there.
No, don't interrupt me. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Were they licensed by the county and the state to be licensed building inspectors?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and you could provide documentation about that?
They're private,
You sent me the email on that, Carol. I conferred with the town attorney that this meets our obligations as far as the people who are doing the work for us.
Are they licensed by the county and the state to do licensed building inspections?
Yes. Well, those two are doing plan reviews. I know this is not supposed to be a back and forth, but they're doing plan reviews, not building inspections. LaBella is doing inspections.
So the building inspections over the lapse of time were licensed by the county and the state?
Carol, this will be my last response. The building inspections that have been done since Jeff left have been done by LaBella Engineering, who are qualified.
Okay, so all the building inspectors were under their management?
LaBella manages their own people.
Okay,
We
so
tell them what we want them to do.
you're not being transparent, but that's okay.
Okay, send me an email, Carol, or better yet, call me at the office.
I will.
Thank you.
So to be clear, the building inspector has been working, he worked for the past several months without a contract.
We don't
So
issue contracts.
No, don't interrupt me, Tony. I'm not sure why you allowed that to happen, why you didn't sign a contract with him right from the beginning, and you shot yourself in the foot. So now 50% of our building inspection fees are going to the LaBella. So I'm not sure how that happens. Let's see what else. How many people in attendance? I would like to know how many people were in attendance at this meeting publicly.
17.
Okay, great. That's almost a record, right?
Not quite.
No, not quite, but yeah.
I'm concerned that the default budget doesn't include road repairs, as other people have spoke about. Why are you passing an ordinance for tree removal when you don't have the staff to support the ordinance? It doesn't make any sense. So here we go, back on the ill management of the town dollars. I would also like clarification on how many grants are applied for, and how many are received and what that dollar amount is to justify the $4,000 stipend.
I think the supervisor said there's about 4 million in grants have been secured over the last 2 years.
Okay, and what are her hours? What are the hours involved in doing that?
The time is up.
Time's up, Carol.
Maybe send an email.
Yeah, send an email. Any questions you have, send me an email.
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, I'll send an email, but I'm not going to expect any return.
Okay, Reed Gillen, I'm asking you to unmute. Reed?
Thank you very much. Can I be heard?
Yes, you are.
Great. You will all be delighted to know that this is not a budget-related comment. I would like to request an amendment to the new business that was detailed on tonight's agenda, but which I'm assuming is going to be pushed to the next meeting. the new business item concerning DOT discussions for a crosswalk at 35 and 121. I'd like that conversation to also include discussions of crosswalks near the Golden's Bridge train station and Route 138. Andrea spoke earlier about the lack of commercial revenue in our town, and I think improvements to that area will not only prioritize the commercial properties over there, but also address pertinent safety risks. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. But let me just add, the reason we put this on for discussion is because DOT are paving Route 35 up to that intersection. And that's an opportunity for us to potentially have crosswalks put in.
I hope everybody heard that. They're actually paving Route 35 up to that intersection.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
That's what we announced some time back.
Yeah, and
Actually, I was gonna state this, pulling a board, but 2023, we're gonna pull it in.
Excellent.
June 2023.
That's something. Barbara Mangio.
Can I just, as a, it's comment for Reed, look, there's a lot of support on this board, I think, for doing all the things in Golden's Bridge that we talked about for so long. So we'll continue to work on that. Welcome to email us on it or get in touch with the
GBHO, yeah.
GBHO, of course, which maybe you already are, and the pedestrian bike committee is focused on that as well. So.
Barbara Mangio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I also had a question in regards to that item, the DOT. I would kind of like the town to speak with them regarding perhaps doing a safety evaluation of that 121 just north of 35, where you have 6 driveways on both sides of the road. You have one by the bank, one entering the shopping center, one for the wine store on the right. And on the left, you have 2 going into the gas station and one going into the strip mall. I just feel that it's always been a safety issue. And as traffic increases and as people drive more recklessly and speed, I almost got T-boned the other day by someone shooting out of the bank spot. So you have 6 entrances and exits in probably less than 1/10 of a mile right before a major intersection. So I would like to see the town speak to the DOT about a safety study to see if some of those exits or entrances should even be closed. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. That's it.
Okay, great. Okay, communications. I don't have anything for communications, so I guess we'll skip right over that. Consent agenda, motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes minutes and the reports.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
New business, this is setting a public hearing for the senior citizens and disability exemptions, which Lise did a great job at presenting to us a couple of meetings ago. So I'd like to go ahead and set that public hearing for sometime in January.
Do we have a
The 2 meetings in January are January 9th. It's your
Organizational.
meeting, and then you January 23rd.
motion to set it for January 23rd?
Yep,
Second.
discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The sludge hauling bid, so we have a bid for the board to approve. It was, it's in the agenda packet. This is for hauling sludge out of the 2 sewer districts that we own and manage, which includes Oak Ridge and Wild Oats.
And how often do we do
What's
this?
the result?
I don't know.
It's an annual, just
I don't know, it's
Regular, they do periodically.
they do it, yeah,
Sludge off site.
right,
Sludge incineration.
at 22.3 cents per gallon,
So that's the winning bid.
correct.
That'll be all.
Well, that's the only bid.
The only bid.
All right then.
Regionally, it's very much.
Not a lot of sludge coming.
Right. So we motion, I guess we need a motion to approve that, to approve moving forward with that bid.
yes.
We said it again?
Awarding the bid.
Oh.
Winter for environmental for a 3-year period.
Right, all right, so I motion that we award the bid to.
Wind
Missed that
River
page.
Environmental
For a period of 3 years
at that rate.
at the rate of $0.223 per gallon.
So moves, subject to the town attorney's assurance that they have applicable.
It's been checked.
It's been done already?
Yes, it's all been done.
Okay, so we'll draw that motion to approve.
1 second.
The roll call, right?
Oh, roll call. Andrea.
Aye.
And.
Aye.
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 Sean says aye.
Who made the second?
Rich.
Rich.
Rich is a second.
I think Tony made the first.
Okay, so New York City DOT crosswalks. So the update from DOT, spoke to them last week, I think it was. They're gonna be repaving 35, as you all know, between the two sections of 121 over at the traffic light and west of that, over by the entrance to Ward Pound Ridge. And they're actually they're looking to start that in June next year. And one of the discussions I had with the person regarding the person on the pedestrian safety side was, okay, can we take this opportunity to put in crosswalks at that intersection of 35 and 121 between Lewisboro, Cross River Lines and the gas station?
Makes sense.
So they recommended that first we get a resolution from the board agreeing to or approving that they move ahead with a pedestrian safety study.
Support the Michigan study.
Correct.
Pedestrian safety study for the installation.
Right.
Because
So-
by the DOT.
Yeah.
Here's my only concern, and I think that we need to do this. My only concern is the amount of pedestrian traffic is going to increase with the opening of the Borough Cafe. And it's not going to be an adequate reflection of what we're expecting. I don't know if that is part of the study. Some sort of.
Yeah, I spoke to them about the
Okay.
fact that the borough is going to be opening up and we're going to see more pedestrians. crossing.
Yes, I'm worried, you know.
Correct.
They do. Good.
Sidewalks, and I told them about that, yeah, from the sidewalks. And,
Yeah, and if it may, you know, it may be that they're push button crosswalk rather than regular.
Right.
Yeah, it's important.
So,
So the resolution right now?
Mary was gonna
Yeah.
say something, I thought.
I just wanted to confirm that the DOT is paying for the safety study.
that is correct.
I move.
That's what I'm trying to get them to, yeah. Yeah. But we got to get this resolution first to them.
Resolution in support of,
So I motion to, yeah, did I motion already? I think, yeah, I did.
so we have a draft
So we have a second?
resolution or no?
No, we don't.
Yeah, Mary seconds. it, right?
Mary.
I second it.
Yes.
Motion to support the task study, the New York State Department of Transportation for the purpose of installing pedestrian crosswalks at the 21.
Okay, Mary made the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is authorization for the board to pursue the Bridge New York 22 grant application for the Oskalita Culvert.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? Favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution considering appointment of town controller. So as we all know, Leo is going to be retiring. So we have interviewed someone who the board unanimously feels is a good replacement. So we need to vote on that appointment.
Are you voting on an offer sheet or whether we? Or just.
She was given a term
She was given a
sheet.
term sheet that we discussed last time.
Was
She
it-
accepted it. Now the term sheet needs to be turned into an offer with the updated salary
So we,
as we put in.
is it a motion to authorize you to?
Send an offer letter.
To send the offer letter and appoint and
I think it's a motion.
motion appoint.
Motion to appoint.
Okay,
That's sort of.
motion to appoint controller.
So, can I ask the comptroller, is it 2 years? No?
Repeat her name in there.
Reminder of Leo's
Oh, so
appointment.
it's 21-23.
Mhm. And then we reappoint for 2 years.
And we get reappointed, okay, got it, yep.
Well, Leo's effective, isn't he December 31, so we have to make it January 1?
Well, no.
Can be overlapped.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
he's in the middle of a term. But yeah, so right now the intent is to bring her in as soon as she wants to come in.
Okay.
As soon as she can come in.
She can come in.
All right, so move to appoint the town controller.
Do we need a name in that?
No.
Yes, we do.
I'd rather not
He said
at
yes.
this point. Greg? She hasn't given, yeah, remember we spoke about that?
Yeah,
We said in terms.
the context is a little different, I was going to further giving notes. Yeah, go ahead and on
Last week.
last week on.
Yeah.
You can notice the point, on 28, and then give the notice, you can make the name available.
Okay.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to. mess
We don't
things up for
want
Sarah,
to-
So moved as stated by council.
Second,
Discussion, all in favor?
aye. And may I just add, thanks to Leo for his service to the town for the past 10 years.
Thank you,
Sure.
Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Leo. God bless.
Okay, there's no business.
Do we pick a date for the public hearing?
Yeah, January 23rd.
January. Okay, that's what-
23rd.
all right.
A motion to approve claims
So
submitted.
moved.
Second,
Discussion, all in favor?
aye.
Okay, calling the board, I'll start with you, Mary.
The rain date for the holiday celebration, if it rains tomorrow, we will.
Sorry. I actually have an add-on. that Jen gave me.
Thank you.
Yeah, the holiday, that's the highway
Oh,
department.
sure.
Oh, shit.
I wrote it up.
Oh, you wrote it up, yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, Mary, can I, this is
Go
one
ahead.
more, it's a new
That's-
item.
Perfectly fine.
So this would be to a resolution to authorize an extended lunch period from 11:45 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. on Thursday, December 15th, with the snow date of Friday, December 16th for an employee function.
Heartily
Do I have?
seconded.
Second. All right. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're done. That's it. Now you can. Take the board.
I just don't even know anyone. Thank you to everyone who gave us input on the budget. We couldn't do it without you, and we're doing it for you as well as ourselves, as we all live in the town of Lewisboro. The rain date for the holiday celebration is on Thursday, because we are scheduled to have rain tomorrow and Wednesday,
So we're preemptively adjourning
as far as I know.
It went out today. from
Yeah.
Park and Rec.
Yeah.
it for Thursday.
And the library hosted a great nightclub at the library on this past Friday. It was sold out and people were turned away. All the money went to the operating fund of the library, and I'm grateful that everyone had a good time. And thank you to my fellow board members for your tenacity.
You're welcome. Rich.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, just want to join Mary's, the Friday night, library concert. I think that's the first post-COVID concert back.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it was awesome, and that was, I think, the brainchild of Mary many years ago to bring that back, including, well, Jay Prince was a former Lewisboro resident,
Right, but
and
he's
Steve.
still a Lewisboro resident.
And Steve Shapiro, who's a
Right.
longtime Lewisboro resident. It was really fascinating. And
And Tiger and Dave.
Tiger and Dave, as well as from John Jay, the
The poll group.
acapella group, whose name is escaping.
Mm.
Oh, the
They were great. They did
We're all
four.
blank.
They did four songs at the beginning, which was great. Second, just want to give a shout out, congratulate our LPD and the leadership of Chief Dave Alfano for the outstanding police work, and see Sergeant Llewellyn's here too for their great work by LPD for the recent incident in Cross River, the assisting in the investigation, and just outstanding police work over the course of really 48 hours. Compliment everybody, Chief and Sergeant Llewellyn, for all the great work that they did. And hope to see you Thursday. And if you don't get to talk before, happy and safe holiday season to everybody.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I just wanted to say that my heartfelt condolences go out to the family of the victim who unfortunately passed away due to a hit and run incident in the Cross River Shopping Center this past weekend, and hopefully better news on the horizon for the town from here on in. Thank you to Lewisboro Police Department and all of our first responders for that event. Looking forward to a happy and healthy holiday season to everyone. I hopefully will see everyone at our town's Christmas celebration, hopefully Thursday. If you know, this job and this budget process has not been easy. And thank you to the board. We really, we talked a lot. Like I said before, we worked hard, and I appreciate them all. And happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. I want to second your comment about the tragedy that occurred the past few days. And in thinking about that, although we don't, I think, know the real details of how it actually transpired, but I think we all have personal experience with our shopping center parking lots, maybe with the exception of Vista. It's pretty easy to navigate that one, but certainly Cross River and Gold's Bridge are abominable. And the way they design these lots seems to completely leave pedestrians out of the calculus. And I'm thinking that perhaps there's an opportunity to go into our code and say, look, you need to have a pedestrian strip, strategically placed so that you don't have to get out of your car and walk down the middle of the road every time. I know when I get out there, I'm looking this way, and you can't hardly figure out what to do. Same thing in Gold's Bridge. That's a nightmare there as well. So there may be some best practices around requirements for those lots that we can try to serve up, and maybe the pedestrian safety committee can do a little research for us on that.
It's actually years back.
And then it wouldn't be me in the end of the year if I didn't make a comment that we're scraping for the last $1,000 here in this budget. Meanwhile, Congress gave an extra $45 billion to the Pentagon that they didn't even ask for, just to bulk it up, and it seems to me that our priorities are completely messed up, and we need to start spending on the right stuff and direct it towards needs here in this country. So that's my little soapbox on here.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so the incident, just to add to what my colleagues have said, that happened in Cross River is a tragic one. So Randy Blackberg was the victim. And so condolences out to her family, and may her soul rest in peace. But it was a very tragic incident. And thanks for the efforts of all involved. New York State, LPD, county was involved as well in doing their work to pull up the evidence that allowed them to identify the suspect. So good job by all, and again, condolences to the Blackberg family. I talked about the Route 35 paving. They're going to be moving that up to June of 2023. And on the grants front, I think I had shared in the prior meeting that we received the reimbursement of $94,000 for one of the WIA grants for expenses incurred at Oak Ridge. We received that on November 4th. November 30th, we received just a few days ago, $328,000 that was used to pay for the playground equipment. So that's what's in the in today's claims that we all approved. So we received that money on the 30th. Checks going out to the playground people today or tomorrow. So yeah, so hope to continue with more grant success and bringing in monies to the town.
I forgot two things. One, thanks to everyone who contributed to the Vista Fire Department donations for Toys for Tots. And that South Salem Fire Department is going to be taking up a collection in case you weren't able. Please check with their website for the donation details.
And I forgot one thing too, we're losing a member on the pedestrian bicycle committee. Danielle Kramer has put in some good work on that committee and it's gonna be missed. She's very sensitive to those issues, but she'll be dropping off. So we do have an opening, and those, as you can hear from some of the different things we commented on today, that's a very hot topic, whether it be what we do in Cross River or, these parking lot issues. Trying to make our first dent in whatever we would like to see is some level of sort of pedestrian bike paths, whatever. So it's a great place to work with your neighbors and trying to make progress on these things. So if you're interested, send it up to Tony and he'll pass it on to them.
Yeah, we have several committees that have openings, including the housing committee. We do have the planning board has an opening as well for next year. So if anyone is interested in any of our committees or boards, would go on our website. Send an email to myself or town clerk, and she'll get it to me. And
Thank you to Greg Lasource for all his years of service on the planning board.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. We don't have any more meetings this year, so we should thank Greg for his service.
Yes.
Many years of service. So thank you very much, Greg.
Yes, pleasure to have served with Greg on the planning board for several years myself.
Okay, that's all I had. So now we
Next meeting.
the next meeting would be January 9th, 2023. I was gonna say 24.
Oh, don't.
Jeez.
No.
Yeah, and it'll be here at the townhouse. So motion to go into executive session for personnel.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, good night, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Be